Hi everybody, Out of This World Burrito here, and to celebrate the start of my new Star Wars Galaxies achievement hunting series, Badge Collector, I'll be ranking all of the quests that appear in my 1 to 90 series of videos. Quests may be rated individually or as a series on the following 3 points. Point number 1 is story, how good or memorable the story is. Point number 2 is quest design. This is a broad range of topics including environmental design, how the objectives may be completed, or the appropriateness of the challenge of the quest. And number 3 is reward. Good, bad, and everything in between. Over 70 quests are to be ranked today, so let's go ahead and get started. Starting this list is Tansarii Point Station, which is the tutorial for Star Wars Galaxies. Here you meet Han Solo and his crew of Chewbacca, R2-D2, and C-3PO as they escort you off an Imperial space station and onto the Tansarii Point Station, which is a large questing hub. There are effectively 3 main points of the Tansarii Point Station experience. One is your profession quest, which relates to your character specifically and the profession they chose. In my series, I chose Officer, so we saw that quest line, which had me negotiating between the Rakwa on Station Gamma and some of the Tansarii Point Station officers. The second point is the Station Quests, which anyone can participate in, but are combat-oriented. This includes tasks around Tansarii Point Station itself, which is mostly about fixing problems and reinstating order in the chaotic station. And then there's Station Gamma, which is more about exploration and challenge. This is also the first appearance of the Geonosian Cave layout, as Station Gamma is literally just the Geonosian Cave. Keep that in mind and for later. The third part is Ord Mantell Space itself. This is where you can learn piloting from card-ass pilots who are trying to stop a Black Sun's plot on Tansarii Point Station. Profession quests are very short, and they're the only thing you need to complete in order to get off the station, as well as reach, I believe, at least level 5. You can't leave the station before completing that quest or reaching level 5. Han Solo will tell you to keep working. These quests are fairly straightforward and simple, and they'll give you a basic rundown of how to play the game, as well as the instructions R2-D2 and C-3PO give. They are lacking in some points, such as not teaching players about the different aiming mechanics, which is a big faux pas, especially since you start manual aim and not the more used auto aim, which is toggled with Y. So there's definitely room for improvement here. As for the station quests themselves, they all vary in the types of objectives that you'll get, and they're basically reflective of the majority of quests you'll typically have, which are go here, click these things, go here, slay these enemies, etc. So that's a really standard introduction. As for the Gamma Station, it does introduce a higher level of difficulty that you once would need to group up with other players in the tutorial to do. However, on Legends, once you reach level 10, your expertise is available to you, which will allow you to solo all of Station Gamma, including the station boss, without too much trouble. Even before expertise was added, certain professions like Commando had no problem clearing Station Gamma on their own. I think tuning this up in difficulty would be appropriate for the theme. However, given the population count of Legends and how many people can actually be in the tutorial area at once, I think leaving it easier is nice for people who want to have completed everything before leaving. I think the story is pretty simple, but it's well told, straightforward, and again, you can leave immediately after finishing your profession quest, or if you're not interested in the plot there or the items that you can receive there, you can be gone in like 10-15 minutes tops and have some good starting items to start out on Tatooine with. Otherwise, you could be up in Tansarii Point Station doing the ground quests alone for about 2 hours. Now, the third part that I haven't talked about yet is Ord Mantell Space. If it was not for Ord Mantell Space, I'd probably put Tansarii Station up in S tier, but Ord Mantell Space is an awful experience, not just for new pilots, but for also experienced pilots. While Legends has improved the stats of the starter prototype ship the pilot trainers will start you with, which is a great boon as you'll be flying around a lot of great distances here, so the slow ship was a pain. You're still going to be flying those large distances. Some of the quests aren't very clear in what they'll have you do. Specifically, there's one instance where you have to find a specific Black Sun member in a ship, but it doesn't point it out very clearly, and you have to read the journal and just test ships in the area. For experienced pilots, that's pretty intuitive as we're used to doing that, but for new pilots, it's a common point where players get stuck, frustrated, or just skip it and drop it all together. The quests themselves are also extremely difficult towards the end, having the pilot fight upwards of like 8 to 10 enemies at once, which is a lot for the starter ship. And if you're not, again, an experienced pilot, it could be a very frustrating experience. And I am rating it as a whole. So, of course, I'm going to take the space portion into consideration here. I'm not going to ignore it. The other thing, too, is that the rewards in Tansari's Point Station, while they are great for the ground aspect of getting you off the ground and running, space is not. All of the rewards you get from the Cardass pilots are either terrible or just straight unusable. Specifically, they give you droid interfaces, which is hilarious because you can't even use the droid commands at the prototype ship level because you have no actual formal piloting rank. So this is a terrible onboarding experience for pilots, and I think ultimately turns more people away from the space game than it does introducing them. The other real sore spot is that even with the Hero of Tansarii Point Station badge, it's only tied to doing the space quests, and it's the only badge exclusive to Tansarii Point. Well, you can't get the Destiny badge on the Nova Orion Station if you missed it on Tansarii. You cannot get this badge. And to give you an idea of how long it took me, I believe it took me just 3.5 hours alone to do the space section. And again, I kind of knew what I was doing and knew what I was getting into, and I think I only failed a mission once. So that was pretty good. So I'm going to have to put Tansari's Point Station up in A tier because the ground game is really good. It's really well tuned for that level, and it does introduce a lot of basic concepts. But man, space is terrible. Like in Tansarii Point Station, it's miserable. It does the opposite of what's supposed to do. All right, moving on, we have the Legacy Quests on Tatooine, which I'm going to rate separately from Jabba's Theme Park. This is because you can actually do Jabba's Theme Park without doing the Legacy. You only need to get into Jabba's throne room in order to continue Legacy Quests, and there's other ways of getting into Jabba's throne room, like being a Smuggler Alliance pilot, so technically you don't have to do Jabba's Theme Park, I think, to complete the Tatooine Legacy, so we're going to rate them separately. The Tatooine Legacy has basically a few main story arcs. The first one's Mos Eisley, which is dealing with the White Thranta Corporation, the delivery corporation that seems to be in, I believe, Jabba's pockets. I believe that's what the quest was. Then going to either Anchorhead or Bespin as you align with either the Rebels or Imperials respectively to help them on their missions for retrieving these droid parts that are sought after. And then the third part is helping Watto, which has you going all around the planet doing a lot of different activities, which eventually does require you to go to Jabba's palace. I think the Mos Eisley part is fairly well written, and I think the White Thranta bunker is a really interesting place. That's lively, it has a lot of things and side activities to do. It also has the fun reward of being able to like slice the terminal. And again, I think it's a really good welcome introduction for that area. On the other hand, though, Anchorhead and the Bespin arcs, where you're starting to move around the planet a lot more, can be a little bit slow, mainly because you have so much traveling to do, especially if you're going to Anchorhead, which does not have a starport, so you're always going to be hitting a shuttle port, dropping an ITV, and moving out to there. You can't just jump over with your ship. And then the Watto part itself, I think, is fine. Watto sucks, but there's some side quests you can actually get around Espa, namely from Watto's assistant. So you can get an extra quest there picked up and done pretty easily. That does give an okay reward if you are somehow behind on experience at this point. Legends has updated the Watto section of the Legacy quest to actually give good rewards, including the Bark Speeder. So it is worth doing if you haven't done it already, just to get that unique mount. However, the plot line here is kind of meh. Again, you're just chasing down a droid, and you're just basically a gun for hire, which is fine and is a nice change of pace for what the rest of the Legacy will become after this point, which we'll get to when we get there. And I think the rewards are probably the highlight of the series, giving you a lot of level-appropriate weapons and keeping you generally well-geared going through your first 20 or so levels. And I think it's a pretty nostalgic high point for people, so I'll put it up in A tier next to Tansarii. Now we're on Jabba's Theme Park, which is probably less nostalgic for some people, as while it's tied in the Legacy Tatooine. Jabba's Theme Park becomes, you're still the higher mercenary, but now you're kind of working up you're working up the ladder of the gang, basically, in order to have enough street cred to talk to Jabba. And the quests vary from cool quests, like fighting with enemy gangs, doing assassinations, that kind of, like doing enforcer work, that kind of stuff, to, hey, go out and kill like 20 squill because Jabba likes squill meat or something. Very repetitive quest. It does have you visiting some fun points of interest, like the Sarlacc pit, and Jabba's palace in and of itself is really well designed, but there's really no story here other than, hey, you do some work and Jabba's cool. You want to talk to Jabba, right? Come on in. If it wasn't for the Legacy quest, contextualizing it with the droid part, it's pretty hollow of a story beat. In fact, I'd say there's almost no story here. It kind of just rides on the intrinsic value of, oh, I remember Jabba and his palace from the movies. I want to go in there. I want to see the Rancor pit. Wow, Gamorrean guards, do the axe thing from Lego. So I'm gonna probably put it down in B tier, as the rewards are pretty good again, but not good enough for me to rank it any higher, just because it's so absent of plot and it doesn't overstay its welcome. You can finish it pretty quickly at level, like within an hour, and then of course if you're already level 90, you can just blitz it. Next is the Legacy Quest of Naboo, which is probably going to be the most notorious piece of Legacy, as I think most people don't get to the Legacy sections beyond Naboo because they get turned off by Naboo so much. So as a quick reminder of what goes on Naboo, the main plot line here is that you are trying to climb the ranks of the Royal Security Force, either for the Rebels or for the Imperials, so you can get access to the Royal Security Force mainframe so you can track down more droid parts for your faction. Because there's this old Republic droid technology that will be super valuable in warfare. The Rebels don't want the Imperials to have it, and the Imperials don't want potentially anyone else getting it, like the Rebellion. So there's a few major story beats here. There's going to Kadara, which everyone will remember for helping Johnny Skak. And then you have going to Corinne, which you see Captain Typho. You get a movie character who has you helping him with some Royal Security Forces work, either police work, marine work, going into space, and then commando work or special forces work or something. And then you have the Theed arc, where you're helping Pooja with more gangs. And you also may remember Hugo Eckner and his kidnapped son. And then finally you have the Royal Security mainframe, which I think is the part that people mostly hate. We'll get to that later, but going back to Kadara, Legends again updated the rewards here, which is a really nice touch, especially since the best rewards are in the front, which you get the ATRT from finishing the Kadara section. However, there are still rewards from the core game, which if you can put up with the Johnny Scat quest, you do get Nourishing Vita Caps, the best buff item in the Legacy Quest series, ignoring the binoculars. So that's always nostalgic to do. But that quest is a good highlight of a problem that a lot of the Naboo quests have, which is they give you the bare number of enemies to kill, and sometimes not even enough. And then you have to wait for really long respawn times. The Johnny Skak one is one of them. Once you get to slaying night spiders outside the city, there are literally not enough to finish it in one spawn, and I think their spawn timer is like 3 or 4 minutes. Similarly, a lot of the bosses in the caves around Theed, if you kill one boss out of order, like I did during the series, you're waiting 3 or 4 minutes for it to respawn. It's a real pain. This happened occasionally in the Tatooine Legacy and Jabba's theme park, but not as often. They seem to have shorter timers. Oh, and again, Jabba's theme park rewards are updated too. You can get the desert skiff from there. I included that in the B ranking. It's cool, but not cool enough to pull up having no story. But going back to the Legacy on Naboo, this does have a story, but again, it's just hunting a droid part. You get some story beats in between, but this is where you start. You're just a cop. You're just becoming a space cop. That's basically what the Legacy is from now on until almost the very end. You're just a space cop. So here you're space copping for Royal Security Force, which honestly, I do enjoy the Corinne because it gives you the option of doing the space missions, which I didn't because it'd be slower and I just didn't feel like it. And I don't think they give you any notable rewards, while the police work gives you some bad buff items and I think like a grenade or something. The marine work can give you the backpack, which gives you terrain negotiation, which that's like one of 3 wearable sources for terrain negotiating in the game. So that's a fun novelty. Not good, but it's a fun novelty. And you do get some good weapons that will kind of help keeping pace, but this is where the weapon grants start becoming a lot fewer. So if you're trying to maintain gear to your level, it's going to become very difficult, especially if you are utilizing experience bonuses from entertainers and other sources. You're going to be vastly overleveling what's given to you. You're going to be really leaning on what you get from your profession wheel. Moving on to the Theed arc. The Theed arc's really not that bad. There is a lot of driving around between it's like 4 bases. It's like Borvos, the Skak Tippers, and Darkstalkers. And I think there's another one that I'm forgetting. The Mummers. They're also there too. They're across from Borvos. They're basically looking at each other across the street, everybody loves Raymond style. The Borvo thugs go over to get drugs from the Mummers, and the Mummers just poison them anyways. Whatever. it's not too bad for the fact that once you get to the part where you're dealing with both the Darkstalkers and the Skak Tippers to figure out where Hugo's son is, that would be a lot of back and forth. But you could pick those quests up at the same time, and you could just run them all out in like one drive around. So it's not that terrible. The terrible part is the Royal Security mainframe, which has you hunting down 4 of these Old Republic droid parts, which is the Mouse Droid, the Droidica, the Borvo's Vault, and Gungan Battle Droid. The Mouse Droid is the fastest and easiest of these 4, where all you have to do is go back to the Skak Tipper hideout outside of Kadara, run down and back to the bottom of the base, interact with the droid, boom, you're done. Number 2 is the Droidica, which you go to Dija Peak, which I think is actually a fun questing area. There are more copy paste cut caves here that you've already probably seen on Tatooine and in the Theed area, but there are some more like mountainous stuff. There's some better decorating. I think Dija Peak's one of the better looking areas in the game that SOE designed, so I will give it that nod. Some of the quests you have doing here, you can't multitask as much. You can grab a few quests at a time, but they'll have you going in separate directions, so you're still going to be driving loops a little bit here. The rewards are interesting. The most notable one is Cathara's Cliff Jumper, so you can get a creature mount from this. It's a carrion spat. That's a unique reward for sure. But otherwise, you're not going to be really remembering too much of that stuff here. But at the very end, you finally get access to this bunker where this Droidica's hiding, where you need to get a module from it. And honestly, this is not a really good narrative payoff. You did all this work, like spending maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes running around Dija Peak to run down to a bunker, kill one NPC, and leave. That entire bunker is populated with droids, but that's all they did. If that was it, you should just put him in like in a closet in a wall, and he just pops out like Mustafar style, and you just kill and leave. I don't know why they dumped a whole bunker there and they didn't do anything with it. The next part's Borvo's Vault. This is probably one of the cooler ones in my opinion out of the 4, maybe my personal favorite, which is you're dealing with Borvo the Hutt out of Monia. And he's like, hey, you look like a fresh piece of meat. How about you go run over my vault and test the security systems? And if you entertain me and do that, I'll give you the thing you want, which is really funny to me. So you go and do that. You run through it. He has the lowest level Rancor in the galaxy down there and the lowest level Acklay, which is really funny. But the Acklay's cool because it can drop Acklay carapaces for the Acklay armor, which is better than the armor you get from your profession wheel. But it's not a guaranteed drop, I think. Or maybe it is, but it only drops 1, and to complete the set, I think you need like 6 or 7 of them at least. And the Acklay's like on a 10-minute timer. So it's not really worth your time to sit there for like an hour farming this Acklay for a set of armor that's still garbage when like you can just level up and go get the Katarn armor faster. So not really worth it. But if you go in the boxes around the base, you can actually get better weapons here. Specifically, you can find probably the lowest level weapon with an elemental damage on it. They're all electricity, but some elemental damage is more than none. If you're using crafted weapons, those are going to be better than what you find at this point. But if you're not, they're going to be straight upgrades, with them being, I think you could get a rifle and a carbine. I don't think there's a pistol. There might be, and I think there's a stun stick. So not an upgrade for everybody, but pretty cool. That's a nice touch. Anyways, yeah, it's really short, in and out, Borovunker, boom. That one's not too bad. This is the part that everyone really hates, which is the Gungan Battle Droid. So you have to first drive out to the southwest of Naboo, which if there's no player shells nearby, you're just out there driving for like 6,000 meters from Monia or 9,000 or whatever the hell it is. So that sucks. Suck part number 2 is you got to deal with Boss Nass, who just sucks. They write him, unfortunately, like a Gungan and how he speaks in the film. So reading along is a test of patience sometimes, depending on how funny you find Gungans. Number 3, all of his items he gives you suck as rewards. Number 4, he has you running a bunch of errands, murdering other Gungans in the area, and then murdering some droids, and then he being like, oh, okay, sure, I'll give you this. You know what, JK, once you collect all of our cultural artifacts that have been stolen, either by gang members or by Nabooians, and have them displayed in their city in multiple locations, get them all back to me, then I'll give you the thing. Which, you know, based Boss Nass here, but it has you running back to, if I remember correctly, the Mummer base in Theed, Corinne Bank in the middle of the city, Monia's guild hall, like Crafter's guild hall, and then in front of it, it's like on a ruins on a pedestal. Uh, and then I think somewhere outside Deja Peak or something. Like, yeah, down a cave. It's like down a cave near Deja Peak. He gives you all the waypoints, and there's a fifth one that I can't even bother to allocate brain cells to. And for those who, once you get here, you'll be like, oh, I saw these things while I was cresting, which is a nice callback. I think that's a good gameplay, like, mechanic and reward, being like, oh, I saw that earlier. I know where that is, or I know what these things are. But the fact that they're literally everywhere and they have you going to all the same places you've already been in is really frustrating, especially, you know, if you're not being able to leverage instant travel vehicles, especially back on live when it was a little bit more difficult. Legends has made it easier, and there's a lot of community travel hubs that shorten this to get around quickly. It's just frustrating, especially since a lot of the Naboo Legacy has you driving long distances or just doing loops, like I said, around Theed, Kadara, somewhat Kurin, Deja Peak, etc. So it's kind of salt in the wound, especially since all the rewards here suck. And then when you finish the Naboo Legacy after getting all the pieces, they're like, cool, here's a jacket, I guess. Or I guess you get that earlier, whatever. They don't give you anything cool. The best reward you get is the Droidica shield generator schematic, which you don't even need to complete the legacy for. You get that from the Droidica Deja Peak as a quest reward. You can sell that for a few 100,000, I guess. But yeah, anyways, I spent the longest time on this so far because it's a really long stretch of Legacy, and I know people hate it. Anyways, I've already dwelled on this too much. I'm just going to throw it down and I'm going to put it in C tier because I'm nostalgic for it. And I would still recommend new players do it. I don't think it's as bad as people say it is, but I also understand if you hate it, why you hate it. Moving on, we're going up to space now with CorSec Squadron. And what I am ranking here is I am ranking all of the quests you get from getting up until the Ace quest, because Ace pilot quests are the same for all trainers. You're either just doing the Rebel flavor or the Imperial flavor. So we're ranking CorSec Squadron, which the Legacy quest warmed us up to the Royal Security Forces is playing cops. Now we're playing cops actually in space for CorSec. And I'm going to be real with you. I love the freelance pilot ships. I think the Dune Lizard's a fun ship. Like my Vaxi, it's a little bit of vanilla flavor for me. I know, not a really hot space take. I think they look cool. They look very Star Wars-y. They look very aggressive. I love them. Typically, I run Smuggler's Alliance, which is the pilot trainer out of the back of the cantina in Mos Eisley, because that's just convenient. Also leans Rebel, lets me fly cool ships. But the CorSec missions and story was so boring, it made me reconsider my decision. Again, you're just playing space cops, and there's no overarching plot. If there was, I can't remember it, and I read it and I have a recording of me reading all of it, and I just can't remember anything that happened other than I shot ragtags in space outside of the Corellia Legacy for once. There's that one mission. The one mission I mainly remember is the one that I had to fly like 14 consecutive waypoints in like a Certification 3 with a Certification 3 engine across Corellia space, and it took an unabrupted 14 minutes to do or something, and I wanted to tear my eyes out because nothing happened at the end of it. They're like, good job, come down. I'm like, why? Just why? I already know what a fly there mission is. You have me do this at the beginning in a sick. Don't make me do it again in a Dune Lizard. I'm going to strangle you. This very obviously many visceral here. However, I will say it's not the easiest piloting. That being said, I think the actual Smuggler's Alliance is the easiest. You can get through that without even programming a flight computer. This one I actually did in the video drag up one of my other characters to help me blast through some gunships that I had to fight. But if I threw a flight computer in this, it would have just been really easy. I'd probably rate it more moderate to low difficulty, but hard enough where you need a flight computer. The main appeal of CorSec, though, of course, is that you can flip Imperial or Rebel as a pilot, which is a really cool feature for people who want to kind of like participate, be able to flip sides, participate everywhere without, having 5 ace pilots or whatever, or at least 3 ace pilots. So it is a cool feature of this piloting faction. As for the rewards you get, they're all the same. You get a Borstal eventually, which is like, they're like pilot's first reverse engineering project, or they're just useless. I'm going to put this one in... This is a hard one. I like Smuggler's Alliance more, and that's usually the one I would recommend to people doing freelance. But if they don't want to fly Rebel, I guess I'll put it in C tier. I really wanted to throw this in D tier and just be like, just don't. But there's some utility here, and the reward of being able to flip sides at Ace for stuff is pretty alluring. Moving on to the better piloting faction, Storm Squadron. Now, you'll if you watch the series and you know me, I don't like playing Imperial. I don't do Imperial faction. I'm straight up Rebel to the core. Vum is Imperial right now. You can see her on screen in her Imperial drab because, you know, I want to do the Imperial stuff too, even though I may grit my teeth through it. But I will give them their flowers when they deserved it. Whoever wrote the Storm Squadron quest line probably wrote the best piloting quest line in the game. I've done Storm Squadron, CorSec, Havoc Squadron, and Rebels, and again, Smuggler's Alliance. This is by far, without a doubt, the best writing in any of them. The characters are pretty well written as Imperials. You have, you know, straight up, like, I'm just trying to climb the ladder. I've gotten a bad position. I just want to get through this. I want to be rewarded for this. You also have the aggressive, begrudging, yeah, let's just do it. Or more military heads. Like, you actually have some believable Imperial characters, some more self-interested, some more just like, this is this part of the job, this is the life I know. And the quest has an overall arc, which is really good, which is a lot of the space pilots don't have. And it has you eventually dealing with the Death Star's remain fragments around Yavin 4, stopping rebels from getting them, or other pirates or scavengers from getting them, so that technology is not lost or stolen. And eventually you end up in Endor space trying to conceal what the Empire is doing there before Episode 6, which is building the next Death Star and building the bunker on Endor. You even kill Bothan's spies. Like, they tied it so well in between that Episode 5, Episode 6 era that they were going for with this plot line. It is so well executed. And on Legends, they've updated the Imperial ship certifications so you can get the TIE Bomber earlier. So you have an alternative to not great chassis to start with. So it makes leveling this way better. If I didn't have the TIE Bomber as early as I did, I'd probably be giving it a more negative of a review. But Imperial ships are really fun to fly just because of how, you know, the screaming TIEs are iconic. I flew the TIE Fighter, the heavy variant was really fun. TIE Bomber was all right, what I expected. And then the Defender is an advanced X-Wing, which is an amazing loadout. And the new Legends XG-1 is fun. It fills that endgame PvE niche, but is a little bit more maneuverable. If somebody was saying, I want to do Imperial Pilot, I would highly recommend this one, even though people rate this as the most difficult. But as long as you're following the droid computer guides that people have pinned in Legends Discords, or that I explain during this video series and show what I'm doing, you'll be fine. You might run into some missions that are a little bit difficult, and honestly, I got tired of killing A-Wings after, like, the 90th A-Wing. I don't know why they just send so many A-Wings. Why are they all flying A-Wings? So it might drive you a little nuts quest-wise, but by and far away, this is the best flight trainer I have played. There's really no character that I hated for a bad reason. If I disliked them, it was because they were being shitty Imperials, which, that's good. That's how they should be written. You should have empathetic or sympathetic characters as well, just so that, you know, you get that more morally gray area, but when a character's shitty, they should be shitty for good reasons, not just because I hate them. Like in Havoc Squadron, there's one NPC that I hate, just with a passion. Whoever wrote that just needs to not ever touch a keyboard again. Sorry, not sorry. Either way, I can't put an S tier because space quests suck and get boring, and there's a couple of those that suck and get boring and are kind of confusing. So the quest design themselves suck, and the rewards aren't really that unique. So I'm going to put it up an A tier, though, which that might be the highest praise I've given of any space thing so far. We'll see. We'll see where we get. Next is the Ace Pilot, which I'm just rating them all as a whole, because, again, you're either defeating 30 rebels in Kessel or 30 Imperials, and you're fighting a Corvette, either rebel or Imperial. There's not much to say here, but the basic plot is your faction that you're siding with needs ace pilots to thin out the other faction in Kessel space because it's a really important area to occupy and own. And unfortunately, your faction doesn't have the resources to allocate for a thing for whatever reason. The first part's the worst part, in my opinion, which is the 30 pilot quota. Luckily, if you go to the Legends wiki, there are waypoints to where the pilots spawn. So you can just go and like go between their spawns and shoot them. If you try and find them freeform without waypoints, as I've done in the past, this might be the worst experience. It's very frustrating to find them sometimes. But I would recommend using the waypoints. Fighting the Corvette is difficult, but Legends has made it much more accessible as Mark IV proton launchers are dummy strong now against its components. One missile can one-shot one component, so you don't even really need to aim anymore. You just got to get that lock on. Strafing the escort can be a little bit scary, but since the gunships don't pull off and follow you, not too bad. Definitely nice to ask for help on this regardless, though, if you are not already an ace pilot in other playthrough or on other characters, or you don't have a really particularly strong ship setup for this. The reward, though, is super sick. All of the ace pilot helmets for all the flight trainers are cool as heck, and so are the jackets. My favorite's the privateer jacket, which I still wear on my smuggler for her drip. So I'm going to put it... Oh yeah, of course, there's the reward of reaching Ace Pilot, which is honestly where the space game begins, which is an reward of itself. I'll put it in B tier. It fills its job of being like a flexible, all-purpose quest. So I think it deserves B. It's okay. It's short but sweet. Not short but sweet is Legacy Corellia, which, hey, did you guys miss being a cop for the Royal Security Forces? Well, I got news for you. You're now a cop for CorSec, even if you didn't do their flight training. The main plot here is just helping CorSec deal with all of the criminals on Corellia. So Coronet has you mostly dealing with ragtags and other factions. When you move over to Tyrina, you continue to deal with ragtags and other factions like the rogue CorSec elements, which are people who have been disillusioned with the CorSec security force, and they form their own kind of like vigilante group. Which is a cool narrative, which I think they should have made them the more antagonists, the antagonists more often, and I think would have been better versus the main antagonist of this arc, which we will get to. In Dawaba Grafel, you also have more criminals, but you do some more investigation and some more like true crime element, where's the bodies kind of stuff, which is different, and I like the change in pace. And then Corvella, that kind of continues. Interesting, maybe not well executed, but a good attempt at a different kind of story writing. The main highlight of the quest series, though, for Legacy is you actually get true questing hubs similar to other MMOs where you'll show up to a place and you'll see a bunch of quest people to talk to. You talk to them, all of them, you load up on like 4 or 5 quests. And so when you go into your next main questing area, you have your main quest to do and then a bunch of side quests that can give you more XP, credits, or more importantly, items to help fill out your character. Unfortunately, these items rewards are pretty bad. They honestly feel unfinished, as one of the quest rewards just gives you a single pair of padded armor pants with pretty mediocre stats. Like, it's just the pants, and it's only padded. You can't pick an Ithorian or Wiki set, so those characters are SOL, sorry. I don't remember getting too many weapons or any weapons that were useful as rewards. You get a lot of buff items that are useless. You get a hat that's okay, I remember, and you get a power crystal from a guy randomly if you're a Jedi, but it's like quality poor or something, which you could loot better from the NPCs. So not that cool. I think the best item you can get is probably the binocular buff. The main questing hub people usually remember is the Slaver story arc, which happens outside of Tyrina, I believe, where you go to a slaving compound and you're basically doing a bunch of different tasks there for people. I think this legacy is, while still kind of the same as the Nabooian legacies, better written. There are characters that have some more interesting moments. I don't like all of the writing. Some of it feels a little dated or undercooked, but they at least tried something and tried to vary the characters a little bit here. They tried to introduce villains like the main antagonist, the Trick Council, which is basically this shadow organization that is like the gang of the gangs, and they secretly run all the gangs behind the scenes, and they puppet Rogue CorSec and the ragtags and everybody but the Meatlumps, basically. So that's the main plot of just finding the bigger bad gang all the way at the end and then slaying all of their officers and stopping their operations. I think narratively it's more interesting than Naboo, as Naboo is just an errand boy for Royal Security Forces, and there's some fun beats. But I think this is just overall better, and I really like the quest hub implementation of having side quests to do along with the main quest. It makes you feel like you're hitting progression a little bit more. The amount of Aurelian travel you do isn't as aggressive as Naboo, as you're mostly just going out to the NPC cities, and it's just a wheel spoke, so you go in, go out, go in, go out. You're not having to drive too far. There are a couple situations, like the Rogue CorSec base, where you are driving for a significant distance, unless you're using travel hubs to take shortcuts, or maybe nearby player cities. I'm going to put this one... I'm going to put in B tier, because I do think it's stronger than the Nabooian Legacy, but I don't think it's as nostalgic as Tatooine, and I don't think it's as tightly woven or as well rewarding as Tansarii or Tatooine is. Moving on to the Hero of Tatooine, which I did at this point because I was around level 50-ish, which is the recommended level. The Hero of Tatooine has you doing a few different activities to prove yourself a virtuous or good hero, I guess. I don't know. I don't remember what the Hermit in the Cave rambled on about. He had a lot of text. But basically, you have a few things to do. You have to prove your altruism, your honor, your courage, and your intellect. And they all have different themes. So altruism is you go to a moisture farmer. You find a moisture farmer out in the wilds whose wife and daughter have been kidnapped by some gang members. So you have to find their cave, go inside, collect a detonation charge, and then blow up a rock that they're stuck behind, which I still would love to know how the gang members either drop this massive boulder in the way without hurting anybody, or like got them on the other side of the rock. I don't know. It's something that I would love to explain to me, but I just went with it. The most notable part about this quest is there's an actual child, and she's one of two children in the entire game, the second of which is dead. We'll get to that one later. That one's okay, but the Moisture Farmer has a dummy-long respawn timer for no freaking reason that gates people progressing this quest in any sensible way, so that sucks. Honor is the rancher's wife outside Mos Eisley, where she's basically somehow tricked some pirates into her basement and locked them in there. And you can either free the pirates or not. I choose or not because the pirates are jerks. They're not very nice. And some dark troopers show up and arrest them. And that's it. That's the whole quest. Next is Courage, where you just have to go out to the middle of nowhere and kill a level 50 pig. Next is Intellect, which is a word puzzle. Basically, you have to have a bounty hunter figure out who their target. And there's 5 people, and they say, well, this person tells the truth, but I don't. I'm not a big fan of like newspaper puzzles, as we'll get into later. So this one kind of sucks, especially since like the spawn moves around for no freaking reason, and again just gates people finishing it. The ultimate reward for completing this, though, is besides the badges, you get some cool decorations because you get those parts, the altruism honor pieces, which are just the Gungan statue parts you saw from Naboo Legacy. But more importantly, you get the Mark of Heroism, which is a unique item, great for collectors. It's a ring that if you wear it and die, you can revive yourself once every like 20 hours or something, and it has a limited number of charges. While this sounds powerful, it sucks in the context of Star Wars Galaxies because half of your character, if not more, is their buffs, and when you die from an NPC death blow or an environmental kill, you lose all of your buffs. So reviving in the majority of circumstances is not useful. The only time it is useful is I need to get to that thing, and I'm probably going to die when I get there. But if I can revive myself, I can get it. So, like, running the Dark Jedi Temple, or... Yeah, that's about it, huh? Yeah, I can't think of too many applications for this. You can't even, like, surprise a bounty hunter with it, because if you get bounty hunted and killed and you have this on, then you're just not in combat with... You're not flagged to fight the bounty hunter anymore, so it's not very useful. A cool novelty, but not useful. I put this down in a C tier, because it's unique and they tried something different, but it's mostly just inconvenient, and the rewards aren't very good unless you're a badge collector or you just want the XP stipend. Next, though, is a much more iconic quest, I feel, which is Avenging Mort. For those who don't remember it, it's the one where you get the Katarn armor. It's a pretty short quest line in the middle of your leveling progress that comes at a pivotal point, which is in your 50s, which is where gearing and weapons from quests slows way down, as it wasn't already indicated by my review of the Corellia Legacy and Naboo Legacy. Getting a better piece of armor is really important here, especially since the Katarn armor is like 4 times better than your profession wheel armor almost, and it's free for completing the quest. And there's 3 versions of it. The red one's Rebel, green black for Imperial, and then like white and blue for neutral. And then also you get a cool hologram. So again, if you're neutral, you get the YT-1300, X-Wing for Rebels, and TIE Fighter for Imperials. So that's really cool. And you get to talk to some important movie NPCs. You can go talk to Leia as a Rebel, hologram of the Emperor as your Imperial, or Jabba the Hutt. Again, maybe not as cool. The story's pretty good, though. You're helping a clone get revenge on his old commanding officer, which, I'm all down to help clones of Jango Fett. They're all pretty cool in my book. Well, not all of them, but most of them. And I think this was a really good addition and added some actual contextualization from the prequel films coming out the era and kind of help give hype. So I'm going to put this one... Yeah, I'm going to put it in yeah, we're going to do A tier. Katarn armor is just good drip, and it's really useful because, again, there's like nothing in the 50 to 60 range that is useful for players outside just getting crafted gear. Speaking of nothing useful for players in that level range, here's the Legacy, Talus Legacy. So this is split up into 3 parts, which the first one I like to call Salonians, which is you're in the city of Nashel, and you're helping the Talus police force on referral from CorSec. I kid you not. They're like, hey, my buddies in Talus need your help. Can you go help those cops? So you're playing cop again. This one is you're helping some Salonians, which are a native indigenous population to Talus, with some kidnappings and other bad goings-on by some local smugglers that's going on. Okay story, and I like the Salonians being developed. I wish you spent more time with them narratively. I think having more indigenous species built out narratively helps build out the world of Star Wars, especially in Galaxies, where you just kind of get a lot of previous Legacy stuff or stuff you already knew. Legacy as in Legacy canon. So having something maybe unique or fleshed out a little bit more is nice. However, the only notable reward you get from this is a carbine, and by the time you get it, you're probably going to be over level for it, so not very good. Going on to the next part, Dieric, which I call arguing for the Rebellion or Empire support. This is probably where most of the writing effort went in the Talus Legacy, as you're basically helping the leader of a local influential faction decide whether or not she wants to... Oh, actually, no, she's not even a leader. She's just a girl. She's like someone's relative or something, and she can't decide if she wants to join the Empire or the Rebellion, and you got to argue for one or the other. You can't talk her out of it. Yeah, it's kind of weird, because even if you're Rebel, you have to do both sides. Same if you're Imperial. So if you have to do... So you have to do both before she'll take your opinion seriously. So there's footage of me as a Rebel character going into the Imperial recruiters in full Rebel regalia, and then being like, you want to help? Okay, go sabotage these Rebel efforts because we know they're doing this. Which the way they get away with this is the Imperials and Rebels are both working with like proxy corporations who are aligned with them. So you're sabotaging the corporations, which works as like their proxy footholds, which makes some sense for the Rebels, I guess, because they can't be overt. It makes less sense for the Imperials. I don't know why the Imperials need to work as proxy, especially since they just have a straight up base on Talus. But whatever, we'll let it go. Yeah, all the characters are also written like ass. All the Imperials are just freaking insufferable, but not in the good way that some of the Storm Squadron Imperials were. And then the Rebel guys are just also kind of douches. I felt I remember not liking them very much, or just I don't know. So it's weird you have to do both sides. The rewards sucked. Moving on, spiders. Part 3 spiders. If you've done Talus Legacy, you knew what I mean. Or if you watched me do Talus Legacy. The plot here is that a laboratory was breeding a type of creature that would basically cleanse a planet of all, like, natural life. So the idea is that it'd just be really good at reproducing, developing to its climate, and becoming, like, expert killer. So, like, if you've played Mass Effect, it's like the Rachni, blah, like, that kind of stuff. However, they're all spiders, and by all of them, I mean all 2 of them. There's the angler type look, and then there is the gaping spider type look. And there's 3 types of them, where there's more than 3 types. There's tiny, big with some like more colors, and then really big with some fangs and colors. And then there's like 2 unique variants for 2 boss enemies at the end. the plot starts with you finding a crashed ship, and then like following the trail of the people who got out of it, and then you see it develop, and then at the final part, you go into the facility, cleanse it out alien style, kill the queen, maybe kill the lead male, which is not how spiders reproduce, but whatever, and save the day. That sounds all nice. If it was like 30 minutes, you're going to spend like 2.5 hours doing this, and you're mostly running around the Talus Mountains, in and out of caves and between the same like looking camps. There's some good like, there was effort put in here in like the world building of the virus and how the creatures came about, but you're literally just fighting like 3 looking spiders of varying sizes that all have the same moves. So it's just one spits and then one bites. That's really the only difference. The rewards suck, except for the very end where you can get 2 unique pieces of furniture, which is like a dormant egg and like a hanging dormant egg, which is weird that they let you keep that because you basically have a dormant spider queen in your pocket, but whatever. We'll look over that one. Plot was like half there. They did all of the story. They did all like the lore, none of the actual narrative writing. All the characters are pretty one-off, if there are any, besides the scientist and like the droid head you talk to. The rest are just journal clippings. This goes in D tier. There's really like no reason to do this other than if you want to and get the furniture at the very end, sure. But I don't even think there's a badge for it. Unlike Corellia Legacy, which gives you like a badge and a title, this one doesn't. So even for completionists, you're just doing it to know that you did it. Moving on, we're going to move back to the Clone Relics quest, the Great Hunter. The Great Hunter has you just killing things across the galaxy. Some Rodian and I think the Bespin canteen thinks he's hot shit, and you talk a big game. And it did not transfer. I believe this quest was made before the new game enhancement era, so NGE. I think it was a CU quest, and did not transfer well to the NGE. And this is one of many examples of this. Most specifically because Sawtooth is the last enemy you fight, which is like a level 50 elite or something. But honestly, killing Rancors is harder unless you kill the one in Borville's Vault, which does count for the quest. So I don't know why they should just made the Rancors last. So yeah, I think this is one of those things where Sawtooth was probably harder in combat upgrade, but not. It just didn't transfer to NGE. The rewards are okay. You get some Clone Wars paintings, which I always thought were unique, but actually you get these as a lot of rewards across the Rage of the Wookiees expansion, so they're not unique. You don't have to do this quest to get them. You get some cybernetic arms that are fun novelties, but I think the only useful ones like the snipe arm, and that's only useful to like spies or maybe combat traders. I don't know. I don't even remember if there's a badge associated with this one. I don't think it is. Honestly, I like it for the nostalgia, but and the XP. It does give a lot of XP, which is a nice booster. But I'm gonna give it a. I'm gonna put in put it in D tier. You don't need to do this. Let's be real. You don't need to do that one. All right, next we're getting back into the Legacy with the Legacy Corellia Droid Factory. This is after the Talus Legacy. It has you going back to Corellia because CorSec discovered the CorSec discovered a droid factory, which I believe was a separatist droid factory that was hidden on Corellia that reactivated suddenly. And murderous droids are starting to pour out of it, so CorSec needs help putting them down. This is the second time now that you will recognize the Geonosian cave layout in its entirety, minus the key code puzzles. So if you played Station Gamma, we're up to 2 again. It's 2 times we've seen the Geonosian cave layout. The story is that's all there is. There's like 1 or 2 NPCs you interact with while you're there. The rest is just slaying droids. The only good thing I could say about this one is that it introduces IG-88 at the very end, which hints towards the NIMS Slicer quest. You get an Aurilia and fighting IG-88 as factory. However, I don't know why they drop it at the end randomly out of nowhere. They could have had like clues building up to it, hints of like somebody else hacking in and starting it. It just kind of felt like an afterthought. This is pretty lazily done. The reward on Legends is Anakin's cybernetic forearm, which is useless as equipment. It's just either a display piece or you put it on your appearance slot. This is another one that's got to go in D tier. Like, I don't even remember if it gives you any rewards outside of Luke's arm and some good some okay XP. But you're just killing droidicas. I think battle droids and maybe some other droid variants. It's pretty boring. but it's not the legacy of Rori. People have watched the 190 series and gotten to this point. I think you already know how this one's gonna go. So the plot of this one is that you are now full cop mode, and by that I mean you're such on good terms with all of the galaxy's police forces that they are now personally asking you to do favors for wealthy people that they're friends with. So you are on a revenge mission for a wealthy man whose daughter was kidnapped and like went missing or murdered or something. And he believes that the person at fault is in the normal police force. So you are working undercover to track down the kidnapper who got this to kidnap this man's daughter and like made her vanish or die or whatever. I don't remember. This is more cop like plot. Like this is just like, I guess everyone was watching like NCIS and like Law and Order at the time. I don't know what this writing staff was on, but this is all they got. They just got cop stories. Like one or two's fine, but literally every legacy quest is cop stories. Either way, this one sucks. I hate it. You go out to copy paste bunkers. Luckily, most of them are pretty short with random gang members standing around that you'll never see again after that spot. I don't know why they're there. And there's nothing to do other than to run down the bunker and click a thing or just kill like 12 of them and leave. At one point, Boba Fett's in one of them at the front giving you a side quest, which is bringing back the concept of, hey, this is a quest area, which we haven't seen since the Legacy on Corellia now. This is a quest area. Let's have side quests. Who should be the quest giver? Just dump a movie character. Put Boba Fett there. It's fine. He's not doing anything in Jabba's palace. Just stick him there. I don't know. And he's just like, huh, I'm here to hunt somebody, but since you're here, maybe you could do it. I'll pay you some 2 pennies. It's terrible. I hate it. The best part of this was where you find out that at one point you have to like hunt down Ponda Baba because he was a lead, and like you found out that he like ransacked a cybernetics lab to steal some cybernetics to replace the arm that Obi-Wan cut off, which is a really cool movie tie-in. But then you find him, beat him, he goes, "You can't kill me," and then he just farts and disappears. And I'm just like, that was it? You had a good idea, but I guess they didn't have the time frame to develop it at all. F tier. Don't do this. Don't do this. It doesn't give you any good rewards. It doesn't do anything cool. It just lets you do the later legacy, which we'll get to that soon. Soon as I mean after the Meatlump theme park, because to add salt to the wound of the legacy quest and Rori sucking, the next start for the legacy quests starts at the bottom of the Meatlump bunker in the room with the Meatlump King, which is a restricted access room. And the only way to get down there is to do the entire introductory course of the Meatlump theme park, which has you working for the Corellian Times, who wants to just know more about the mysterious Meatlump leader. And for those who don't know, the Meatlumps are a terrorist or gang organization of Luddites. And what Luddites are, for those who don't know, are people who forswore technology. So they hate starships, they hate fancy energy blasters, they believe that everyone should go back to basics, which, sure, I get that. But they're written as giant morons, because the meta joke here is, this is Star Wars, it's science fantasy. Wouldn't it be so funny if there was a group of cultish Luddites, but they'd all have to be major idiots not to want to engage in this futuristic technology? I hate the writing. It's not for me. I don't want to say the writing's bad because it appeals to a very specific humor, and it's not my humor. Similarly, the quests are not to my taste, which is just go here, kill a thing, come back, go here, kill a thing, come back, go here, kill a thing, come back, and then eventually you get to the main meat of the Meatlump theme park, pun not intended, which is we're doing repeatable content to earn Meatlump lumps, which is the token currency to buy the unique rewards related to the Meatlump theme park, which can be spent at a Meatlump vendor, spent at the Corellian Times, or spent on kisses. I am not joking. Yes. So these puzzles are just like basic, again, like coffee table puzzles or newspaper puzzles where it's like connect the colored wires and cut the wires in a certain time. Do this flippy puzzle within a thing, slide the sliders to get certain numbers. Again, this is not my cup of tea. I'm sure people love having a cup of tea and doing these. I don't, because it's 5 puzzles literally hundreds of times if you want to finish the collections, which I know I just said I'm doing a badge collection series. I know this is on my docket list, and I'm right now putting it off. It's down the line right now. I don't want to think about it. The only redeeming part of the Meatlump theme park is the rewards. Specifically, there's a lot of cool furniture tied to the Meatlumps if you want the Meatlump theming. There's some stuff on the Corellian Time Center that you saw, like the crafted armor color kits for munitions, crafters to craft those, and Legends added a deed for the large Corellian House Style 3, which is objectively the best looking house for the Corellia styles. Don't at me. So if it wasn't for those rewards, I would put this in F tier, but because there are some cool rewards, and because Meatlump Kisses are kind of meta for that extra luck bonus, again, don't ask. If you know, you know. We'll put it in D tier, because again, I know a lot of that's probably just personal preference. Okay, this is the very last part of the Legacy Quest. After this, we're done talking about Legacy, I promise. The last leg of the Legacy Quest is usually fired under the Royal Legacy. I don't count as Royal Legacy. I call it the Meatlump Brothers, because in the room with the Meatlump King, there's a guy who's like, hey, me and my brothers got all these plans. You're going to help us. Let's do it. And so you help him and his brother. So you start by like doing more Meatlump activities, like going to a droid bunker where the droids are quote evil and destroying them all. But guess what? For some reason R2 and C-3PO are there and they need you to do a thing there. Again, just random shit out of nowhere. Eventually there's a boss jump scare because you learn that this guy's brother, Meatlump brothers, got captured by a bounty hunter, the bounty hunter's Bosk, and Bosk is like, hey, I'll give you him back if you do some work for me. Go to Locke and meet my other Trandoshan buddy. You do that work. The Trandoshan buddy tries to betray you to get all the credit for Bosk. You beat him up. You go back to Bosk. He gives you a weapon and a weapon selection, which is useful. You have not seen this for a while. But by the time you get here, if you get here, these weapons are not going to be helpful. You're likely going to be way over leveled. I think they're all like level 55 weapons or something. You're probably going to be pushing, if you're not pushing 65, maybe 70 at this point. The writing's bad. You're just doing Meatlump memes until Bosk shows up. The only, I guess, unique item is you can get a Hollow Shroud, like a Bomar Monk Hollow Shroud. I guess. I don't know. It goes in F tier. Just don't. I don't think there's a badge or title for it either. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I don't care. Next, let's go to another Clone Relics quest, which is working for Boba Fett. This one has you talking to the bounty hunter for a reason other than Death Watch bunker access. Don't let the picture fool you. He needs your help because Jabba the Hutt's given him too much work, so he's going to delegate some of his bounty hunting work to you. So you got to go do some bounty hunting work, which leads you down this plot line where you meet this guy named Dirge, who's like a competitive bounty hunter who, like, you learn has died before and Boba Fett killed him. But then he came back to life, which has you going to the Warren and introduces to the Warren as a dungeon, which is cool. That's a nice touch. And the rewards for this questline are good, specifically the DC-15 carbine or rifle choice, and then the KYD-21 pistol, all three cool skins, and they're all level 80. So they're going to be okay weapons. You're probably going to find better weapons on Mustafar, and they're a little bit over-leveled for the level that you might be doing this at anyways. So not super great. There is a required space portion, which I think is a little bit too hard for most prototype ships. I think you'll need to be at least like certification 3, maybe 5 to do it. But other than that, it's mostly just like level 60, 65-ish standard questing affair. I'm just going to put it in a D tier because honestly you don't really need to do it. Like the clone weapons are cool, so if you want the clone weapons, get them, but they're probably not going to be a playmaker for you when you do it. Now what is a playmaker is Nim's theme park, baby. Now we're in the good stuff. You got to hit out base pirate Gon Nim, manage the citizens, take down enemy pirate factions, and stop a local Imperial general's plot. Hell yeah, we're back in it, baby. So we're back into the cool like main quest hub and spoke thing, where you go get a main quest, and then right there in front of Nim is like 4 more people to talk to, and you talk to those people, and they all give you a quest for the area you're going. So then you go out to, I think you go to the mine first, and then you go to like another cave. Maybe the cave might be first. Yeah, I think it's the cave, then the mine, then the bunker, And on top of completing those quests, which all give excellent XP and okay credit payouts, is there's collections to complete at each area. And if you complete the collections, which some of them are like clicking on things, talking to NPCs there, like the scientists, which give you a little bit extra plot and narrative building, or just, doing whatever, you can get even more XP. NIMS theme park is enough experience to take like a level 70 player to like level 90 just with basic XP bonuses on Legends. It just showers you with experience. It's really, really good. You get really cool decorations from doing it. You get great cosmetics from doing it. You get unique weapon appearances with the NIMS slug thrower and Jenkins rifle. The only bad part is weeding, as you got to go around the town picking weeds, and then you're rewarded with a random collection item. And you got to like do that, get 10 of those collection items, so it sucks. It's easy, but it sucks. That's the only low point. This is gonna be this is gotta be the first S tier rank. This is like, hey, if you're level 60 looking for something to do, that's NIMS theme park. It even's got bosses to do, which are part of the collections and quests. It's just good. It's the most solid piece of work and great. The great news is you don't even need to do the legacy to get there. If you're just level 60, you can go straight to NIMS theme park. You don't even need to do the stupid Meatlump Brothers stuff. It's great. What's also great is the Secrets of the Syren quest, specifically on Legends, as it was updated to include better rewards, specifically the A1 Deluxe Floater, aka the Yellow Submarine. You get some cool like decorations out of it, but more importantly, you get the Corellian G9 Rigger Freighter, which lets you log 3 different travel locations. I've talked about it before in my How to Traverse the Galaxy guide and other guides. Great item. The quest line narratively is interesting. You're either helping the Rebellion or Imperial. Regardless if you're neutral, you got to pick a side eventually if you want to finish it. Basically, track down a guy who keeps scamming everybody, and it's Cal Hyandro or whatever. It does have, I think, like 1 or 2 space parts. The last one's in space for sure, and I think you have to also like blow up a convoy at one point. So you do need a little bit of piloting ranking or somebody to help you out. And there's some like stuff in here that's pretty good for a group, and some good like unique encounters. I'm gonna put it up in B tier, and that's mostly because of the reward. The plot's a little light, but there's good rewards here. So, and I consider it a must do. Do I put must do's in B tier? Yeah, I guess I have ace piloting in there, and I would say you should do ace piloting once. Well, not everything in B tier is a must do, because I got Corellia Legacy in there, but you get the idea. I rate it really high, mostly the rewards carrying it. If there was no G9, I'd probably put that down into C. Moving on to another quick quest, we have the CorSec Quests, To the Queen's Aid and Doing Your Duty. These are the quests that are the Rebel and Imperial quests, respectively, for unlocking the ARC 170 and Actis, aka the Jedi Starfighter. These quests have you aiding either the Queen of Naboo in saving some Wookiees, or aiding Darth Vader in fighting off rebels who are attempting to gain a foothold on Kashyyyk. I'm rating these quests at the same time, as they're very similarly structured by having some space portions, some ground portions, and the ultimate climax being in space. I'd argue the Queen's Aid might be a little bit more difficult, as you don't get as much support in space, and you kind of have to be a little bit on top of it as you're protecting a ship trying to escape, whereas in Doing Your Duty, Darth Vader just has you kill basically all rebels who show their faces. So, a little bit easier. And he gives you a whole squad to like back you up and stuff. You don't get any backup from the Queen. You got to do everything on your own. My only critique of these quest lines is the escorting the NPC on Kashyyyk sucks. It's very slow and boring. And activating the Doing Your Duty quest by going all the way out to the Night Sister Stronghold to open a corpse and grab an item out of it is kind of obtuse and silly. So I'm going to put this one in... This is a good question. The thing is, the ARC 170 is a unique ship, but it's kind of mid, and the Jedi Starfighter is not unique. It's just cool and unique in terms of like like weapon layout and stuff. I'm gonna put this in I don't know, doing this. The only sucky parts are really the walking. I'll put it in C tier. Not bad. You get badges out of it and stuff, so it's okay. Maybe a more controversial and harder thing to rate is the Corellian Engineering Corporation, which is started on Kashyyyk. And this has you doing exclusively space missions, and serves as an introduction to mining asteroids. The rewards here are good, as not only does it give you a mining laser for free and a cargo hold for free, you also get the Y8 mining deed vessel at the very end, which is a useful ship if you do want to get really into mining. Otherwise, even though it's been updated on Legends to have the ability to use gunship parts like Vigos and Imperial gunboats, the ship's envelope sucks. It's got a really weird hit sphere / hitbox, and I would argue all but the top turret's useless. The back turret has a really the back turret's probably the best positioned, but has a really narrow firing range. The top turret has the best firing range, but can't aim at anything below the ship. And then the two turrets on the front, aka the nipple guns, are really only good for mining asteroids and not much else. And mining's kind of boring and bad, but luckily you don't have to do it for too long. I got through it pretty quickly using a crate gunship. You will get jumped during this quest from just mining pirates, just again introducing that mechanic. Is there any really reason to do it though outside of getting the mining stuff? No, I never did it on live, and I didn't really suffer for it. I'm gonna put it in D, as there is some good plot there about and learning about the Corellian Engineering Corporation. There's a variety of characters. If you want to do it, but I wouldn't really mark out for it. Next is Kashyyyk. So this is a little bit more of a vague category in rating because Kashyyyk is more of a large questing hub. Like I said, with the Corellian Engineering Corporation being there and other quests that kind of send you outward to other places of Kashyyyk or outward into the galaxy. But the main quests I'm kind of focusing on here is stuff that is exclusive to the zone. So collecting the survey devices, which has you going around familiarizing yourself with the area. The repeated missions like slaying the feral or diseased Wookiees, Ullers, and Varactyls. There are also some minor ground missions that kind of end up having you go into space and back, which are interesting, but usually pretty low level. But like I said, it's mostly just a jumping off point for doing things. All the rewards are basically decorations. If they give you a gun, it's mostly useful, or it's mostly useless. Again, all this was designed before the NGE for the most part. So stuff doesn't scale well. This is when we're going to start really hitting the things I was like, well, this doesn't really age that well. Most of the missions are just going to give you a paltry amount of credits. Honestly, unless you want Clone Wars paintings that are easier to get, honestly, I'd probably just throw Kashyyyk and I'll put it in I'll put it in D tier. There's some stuff that gives you some good plot and context if you're invested, but most of the characters are forgettable and it's kind of hard to exactly gauge what I'm doing. But it gives a good introduction to the area, which I guess was the job. But that was a close contender for F. Moving on though, now we have a much more interesting area, which is the Dead Forest or the Kirkaware Woods. The main appeal of this area is interacting with the Karatamba people or the Outcasts, which are the two factions. The easiest way to break these down is Karatamba good, Outcast evil. Karatamba live in cool little village, Outcasts live in Spider Cave. Doesn't get any more cut and dry than that. The quest rewards are okay, mostly some unique decorations and item appearances for the weapons. The weapons, again, may not be useful. They're mostly melee weapons, so if you're ranged, you're SOL, and even if you're doing melee, they're probably not a level you can use. Either they're too high when you get it or too low, or they're just going to be worse than what you're using. There are two routes here, which is at the Face Warwatu Challenge. If you slay Warwatu, you can side with the Outcast and do a couple more quests for them. If you spare Warwatu after defeating him, you can stick with the Karatama people and help them out. The Warwatu challenge itself is terrible. Firstly, it is 20 levels higher than all of the other quests in the area, so you're probably gonna have to double back for this one later, even though the quests after it go back to being level 30-ish quests. Again, I think this is a CU pre-NGE problem. Similarly, the Warwatu challenge itself sucks. For the reason that even if you are at the appropriate level, because the NGE is much faster in terms of dealing the amount of damage you deal, you'll defeat the waves that show up within 30 seconds, but the timers can give you up towards 3 minutes. So you're just you kill a thing in 10 seconds and then you stand there and wait. And that's it. So it's not really well paced. Again, the rewards aren't very great. So I'm gonna put this in This is tough because I personally like it, but it's mostly out of nostalgia. A lot of the items that drop in the area from NPCs are also unique and make for cool furniture, and have some unique weapon skins that can be recrafted to be better. I'll put it in B tier. I don't hate it, and I would recommend a lot of new players do it if you're at the appropriate level. Just make sure you get a creature mount because no speeders allowed in there. That's not going to be the first area. That's the thing because here's the ED hunting grounds. The ED hunting grounds require access to get into, unlike the Dead Forest, where you're going to be working with Sordan, the Rodian. He's in the southeast Rodian camp. He's going to be having you slay some bantha, deal with some chish posters, and eventually jump up into space to deliver some pelts that you get. And I think you have to fight some golden bandits in space at some point. I don't remember. But eventually he'll give you access and permission to go into the ED hunting grounds, which I lied. That wasn't Sordan. That was Kursock. That was Kursock, or Dirty Sock. And then you go to Sordan, who is the ruling Rodian in the ED hunting grounds, which the Rodians are all hunters slash whatever, and they're here to test their mettle. I don't know much about Rodian lore, but that's what they're there for. And basically everything you do from that point on is basically proving that you're a badass to the Rodians, or fighting off the Chiss poachers for the Rodians. That's about it. So the plot's pretty light. I kind of wish they worked the Chiss poacher angle a little bit more. Just going around killing all the flavors of creatures gets a little old, but the decorative trophies you get from doing it is cool. Sordan also has an exclusive line of quests that you can unlock as you get through the hunting challenges called Sordan's Bets. These are probably the best rewards you'll get quickly in the hunting grounds. It's not only is it okay, I mean, it's a tiny amount of credits, but you get some okay experience from the creatures you slay. But more importantly, you get cool weapon rewards. They're like all unique skins minus like one of them, I think. Specifically, like the Riss Acid sword, super cool. So you get some cool weapon rewards that can be recrafted for better or sold. And then also, if you want to get into the Heroic Glade, which is an instance in an instance, we're getting layers here, that has you hunting the Kirkerwort, which will require you to dispel the Chiss poachers in the area through murder, so they stop putting out their nasty gas that is poisoning the wildlife. And then the Kirkerwort will show up, and then you fight that. It's not a very hard fight, but it's cool and it's a unique creature. I don't think it shows up anywhere else other than hard mode Avatar, and we'll get to that later. The Chiss Poacher backpack's cool. It was an iconic backpack, especially pre-NGE. It was kind of like an icon of like, you did all that stuff on Kashyyyk, good job. However, to get in there, you got to do the Find Brody Johnson quest, which has you helping with the Arcona compound, which is kind of a nice world building element, but has you doing a lot of space missions. So if you're allergic to space, you might not get there. I'm going to put the ED Hun grounds in. I got to put it at least B tier next to Dead Forest. You're going to be spending a lot more time there than Dead Forest because, again, no speeders. The area is bigger. You got to use creature mounts to get A to B. And some of the quests can be very tiring, but there's some good rewards at the end. Conversely, the Dead Forest rewards aren't as good, but it's not as arduous getting through it. I would say that the Dead Forest has a more interesting plot, though, if that's something that you're really concerned about. Moving on, we got the next trail, which is the Ryat Trail. This is arguably the most iconic trail of the three, well, mainly three areas of Kashyyyk that branch off. Mostly because people know I'm going to go to Web Reaver Canopy and AFK. But it does have some cool missions and plot here, like dealing with the Katarn. You also have the Riot Trail Mastery, which being able to like skip between floors is really cool. Travel reward. I wish more rewards were like that in this game. Or like a reward of convenience kind of thing, you know? It's nice. You get some cool more trophies from here. You can get some cool weapons from the Rodians if you do that. Specifically, I love the Junti Mace. That's a really cool reward. Most of the plot, though, is non-existent. It's just mostly can you overcome the challenges presented to you, / can you deal with the crazy people stuck up in the Warshire Canopy? Or can you help us with some Wookiees or Trandoshans or Godel Bandits? The plot's pretty thin, but it gives a lot of XP. It's fun group content to do at level if you're in the rare situation where you're playing with somebody at your level and can do it. Otherwise, you're mostly going to be here while you're over-leveled, either for the rewards or for the good XP it gives. But it's pretty thin on plot, and that's probably going to be the trail you're going to spend the least amount of time in, unless you AFK it. So I'll put it down here in C tier. I don't think it's a must-do, but it is nice. Next is the Rage of the Wookiees, which, you know, To elaborate on this one, the Rage of the Wookiees expansion came with a quest line called Rage of the Wookiees, which gives the Rage of the Wookiees badge. This quest line has you doing a variety of things, and it starts actually in the Riot Trail, which has you helping the dude who has the human wearing the Wookiee armor. Basically, if you help him out, you impress the Wookiee guide with him, and then she will ask you to do some other things for her, which leads into this series of quests to have you dealing with the predominant Trandoshan slavers on Kashyyyk the Black Scale. And eventually it leads you up to going into space a few times for a few things, and then eventually into the unique Black Scale compound instance, which has you running the gauntlet of like trapped mines, Black Scale enemies, and they're hunting pets and creatures, breaking into their compound, fighting their bosses, fighting Stockholm Syndrome Wookiees, I guess, getting information and luring out the Black Scale leader, jumping up into space and having this giant like blaster fight in the Tipping the Scale space quest, which actually can reward you with a good space weapon and is repeatable on Legends, and keep doing that over and over again. However, as good as that space weapon is, all the ground rewards are pretty much trash and useless. Like, completing the Black Scale compound gets you the Keminoan staff, which is this normal metal staff, and its stats aren't good. The other part is I talked about the Black Scale compound. It actually kind of sucks in its function. Its design is cool, but its implementation in current game is bad. Every fight I just described, except for the boss fight and I guess the Wookiees at the very end, can be skipped, because you can either walk around traps, walk around enemies, and once you get to the base proper, they have very strange line of sight. They'll drop combat almost instantly around some corners. Like if you just run by them, run in the bunker, they just won't chase you for the most part. You can aggro enemies from a distance, and others won't jump on you. That's how I defeated the boss. Like I only pulled like him and like one other dude when I attacked, so that made it way easier than him and 4 of his bodyguards. You might need a Fred to complete this depending on your gear level and setup, but it's mostly soloable. The space part's pretty hard. If you're not an ace, you need to be ace to complete it. So that's kind of a limiting factor for some people. Again, people allergic to space. You can get help from other people though in the space mission. You're not gonna have to like dock with anybody or whatever. You just gotta blow up stuff. So it is doable. While I know maybe people again allergic to space would never consider this, narratively it is one of the best quests written in the game, especially in the earlier game years of the game. And it's actually probably one of, if not my favorite series of quests. The Wookiee characters were interesting. The having the Black Scale enemies are interesting. There's a really cool part where you have to like you shoot down a guy like an Inquisitor or something that for the Black Scales, and you have to go into the Edie trail, find him, then he ambushes you, and he's like got some spiders helping him out or whatever. It's a pretty tough fight for yourself. I think he even uncapped me. It's a really cool beat of plots, has you traversing it like all over Kashyyyk, going up into space, but you're not spending too much time in any area. And again, it feels the most Star Warsy. You get the cool cinematic, like ground storytelling, discovery, working your way up, coming through the compound, going into space, having the big, your yeehaw moment. This one's gonna go in S tier. I know some of you probably like but the space. I'm like, I know, and I know I just trash talk the Black Scale compound, but everything this quest stands for is what I wish a lot of the other quests would do. Yeah, it's not perfect, but it's definitely better than like everything else below it. Moving on to stuff that's not perfect, we got the Madril Cavern. This is a mixed bag. We're going to spend a lot of time here, mostly just walking the cavern. This is another instance in an instance where it's in the back of the Dead Forest. You cannot use a creature mount in here. Basically, go with the flow on your Entertainer buff or Acragam is mandatory. And if you are playing a Commando or a Medic, you better get used to just slow walking it. I did this cavern with a sprint stem and 2 officer runs, and I still got bored running it. The quests here, though, are okay. They give you some more narrative world building, and some of the rewards vary from like cool decorations to unique items. Maybe the most unique one being the mystical stone, which has been improved on Legends to allow you to teleport from any instance on Kashyyyk back to Kachiro, which saves a ton of time. That includes the Black Scale compound that I talked about earlier, so that's super cool. Don't have to run by all the Trandoshans to get out. The thing, though, is that while I do love the Mystical Stone and the quest is really easy, just go talk to the one NPC, the Elder, run out, click stones, go back, get a bunch of XP and get the stone. Most of the other quests aren't as rewarding or generous with their XP and credit payouts, so you're not going to be making a lot of money in here. Loot's pretty thin. It's mostly slaying beetles or spiders, and maybe the occasional, like, crazed Wookiee or droid or something. It's not super good. No real overarching plot other than one involving Mcano, we should get hinted at in the cavern. You got to make sure to talk to everybody and talk to some people multiple times, as some people won't talk to you until you talk to other people and do their quests, yada, yada, yada. So there is a plot here. There's some interwoven stuff, but, you know, not perfect. The NK fight itself is aged pretty poorly. It could be done at level with a friend or at level 90 solo. The drops have been improved on Legends. You can get Grievous's wheel bike. Bane's heart's always cool. The cybernetic arms are always handy. Other than that, though, not really much to write home about. I'd probably put this one down in... I can't say it's better than Riot Trail. That's illegal. We're going to put that right down here. It's got okay plot, okay world building, a unique, very pretty location. So I didn't say that, but the environmental design here is like probably the peak of Kashyyyk, in my opinion. You have variety of color palettes, variety of like terrain decoration, not a lot of enemy variety, but pretty good overall. Most of the objectives are just retrieving or slaying things, and when they're retrieving ones, you can just kind of run by a lot of stuff if you're above level. Next are the slaver camps. These are the camps that are in the Kachiro area. I didn't include them with the Kachiro part because they kind of have you going all over the place, going in and out trails across the galaxy. I do appreciate the plot lines here. They try to differentiate it from just haha go kill Wookiee. There is like a quest like that, but the rest are like proving your mettle to the slavers, dealing with competing factions like Gold Bandits or Chiss or whatever, and competing with other Trandoshan clans or within their own clan. There's not a lot of quests, but the ones that exist are pretty short, -1, which we'll get to next, and all typically involve the Zissik clan, which is not the Ruin clan. Again, the Ruin clan's black scale at this point in the narrative. What's the most important here are the rewards. Well, I don't think any of the space rewards are good or even exist. The ground rewards are cool, giving you some more unique weapon skins, like the Trandoshan suppressor pistol. So that's pretty good. But, you know, if you skip these, I think you're fine. I'll put them in D tier. I wouldn't tell you to not do them, but I wouldn't put your expectations very high. Next is Avatar Platform, which you get from one of the Trandoshans in the Slaver camps. And this was like the main endgame instance of Rage of the Wookiees when it was added, I believe. And it has a lot going on. So first you have to do a series of questing and access the Avatar Platform. And what you're doing is you're helping the Zissik clan destroy the Avatar Platform. And the reason the Slavers want to destroy the Slaver Platform is because the Black Scale clan runs it. And Zissik wants to be the ones in power. So this has you basically trying to get access codes and permissions and sneak on the Avatar Platform, as well as building rapport with the local Wookiee resistance fighters so they can cause chaos in the station, cause a distraction, so that while they're trying to free their Wookiees, you can blow up the station. Narratively, I hate this because there's no choice here. Your only choice is to kill all the Wookiee resistance fighters, led by Herwakakok the Mighty, or Hardcock, as some people call him, because no one can say Wookiee names outside Chewbacca. And then you can release the Wookiee prisoners, but you don't need to, and some Wookiees just won't leave, so they're getting blown up regardless. I guess you can have a headcanon that they all get to escape pods or ships before then, but hey man, whatever. Whatever helps you sleep at night. And then once you destroy the platform, you can go back to it doing a side quest called Avatar Run from Meriam in the Kachiro area. This has you going around clicking 5 things and leaving. It was a repeatable quest that paid out a bunch of credits, but got nerfed because people were using it to farm for credits. And then there are some unique items that drop on the platform as loot, namely through the loot containers, which you would have to do the Wookiee sell quest, get the codes, and then when you have the codes, you do the containers. And no, you can't skip the Wookiees. If you skip the Wookiees, you technically didn't find the codes, even though they're always the same combo, and so you can't enter them. But once you do that, you got to fight some Trandoshan's, and you get stuff out of the box or whatever. So there's that. There's also another side quest for Imperial combatants only, which has you going and collecting Wookiee blood samples, which I believe rewards the Imperial Star Destroyer hologram. So that's kind of cool. It's a one-time deal. And as I've alluded to earlier, Legends implemented Avatar hard mode, and I know others similar servers have similar versions. The Legends version, though, is pretty similar to the normal, except all of their Trandoshans have massive health pools and abilities to make them hit hard and not die. Their levels are typically above level 90, so they get those bonuses, as well as they have powerful abilities like Bounty Hunter Shields, I think, Spies, Evasion. So you're going to be wailing on health bars for a while. There are a few boss fights, the main one being the First Lieutenant, which is just a health bar, kick his butt. You have Dr. something, Disc or something, I don't remember, and he'll summon critters to spawn who intercept damage for him. And then you have a revision of Harakakak the Mighty, where now Harakakak has better Wookiee helpers that heal him faster if you do not slay them. He will also pick a target, mark them, and basically put all of their abilities on global and tell his crew to focus them. That one's really dangerous if it hits a medic, so let the medics don't get hit by that. Stand away from the crowd, just stand on the corner and heal. And he'll also pick a target that is a player and copy their buffs, which is really funny. I don't think there's anything else on Legends that work like that. I think that's a Legends staff design. I'm not going to say it's like a big brain mechanic, but it's kind of meta, and I think it's really funny. So whoever thought of that, good on you. That one's hilarious. But luckily, you can strip them with a medic's Serotonin Purge. So there's that at least. The one thing that I hate about the boss designs in Avatar platform, including the last fight against the Station Master before destroying the platform, is the doors lock. And there's no mercy timer on that. I wish there was a delay. So like if anyone starts to fight, it just like instantly locks. So you have to get everybody in the room. And unfortunately, all of the enemies are very close to the doors, or the rooms are kind of claustrophobic. So if you step a little bit too far in the room, Hardcock is going to come down on you. Like, he's going to be mad. So, don't do that. I've had so many people get locked out of these runs, and it's kind of frustrating. So, that wasn't the thing. The lock boxes were revised. You still have to do the Wookiee Cell quest every time, which is kind of annoying. And navigating the station has some locked doors, so you have to do little clicky puzzles, which is kind of annoying. And I've learned that once one person starts doing all the clicky stuff, you have to leave that one person to do all the clicky stuff, or else like certain people can't enter the lockbox codes, so the one person does. And it's just some awkward like old spaghetti code stuff. So some quality of life stuff to be improved there. The rewards are cool. There are some unique weapon skins here that can be recrafted for better stats. There's the Fractal Armor drop. There is the Swamp Speeder drop. There's the Garbage Truck Speeder that I like to call it. It's just basically 8-seater that I think is like a troop transport, but it looks like a big dumpster to me. So I call it the Garbage Truck. And for completing the repeatable quest, Destroy Avatar Hard Mode, which you can get from Mausoleum in the Zissa camp, who gives you the original Destroy Avatar quest. You can do that one repeatedly. You get a box at the end. It's a little loot box, like in modern MMOs, and I like it. I think it's fun. Everyone getting something is fun and nice. Some people don't because it dilutes the value of the rewards or whatever, but I like it. There was a lot more to Avatar platform than I knew about before I started playing Legends, even like taking out all the hard mode stuff. Like I always play like Rebel, for example, so I didn't even know the Wookiee blood sample was a thing until I reread the wiki again. But some of the fights are butt. It doesn't scale well. The normal Avatar is not very rewarding. Hard mode's okay. And yeah, I'm rating the two together because it's pretty much the same flavor. I'd probably put this in B tier because it's a unique experience, and I think the plot is okay. I just wish the plot had more options, and I just, some of the fights just not great. But moving on to another Kashyyyk one, we have the Civilian Protection Guild, which is space only, where you go up to the space station, and then you start doing space quests for them. They'll have you landing, talking to some other NPCs, which eventually culminates in siding with either the space station if you're a neutral pilot, Rebel if you're Rebel, Imperial if you're Imperial, or if you're CorSec, you can do any of the three flavors. And you will fight your, what I like to call, pilot's first Corvette, which will have you disabling and recapturing a Corvette that has been taken over by pirates, I think. And in the course of that, you get rewarded with either the backside, Advanced X-Wing, or Imperial Guard Interceptor, depending if you're helping the Rebels, Neutrals, or Imperial. You also get a cool hologram if you help the Rebels or Imperials. You don't really get a cool hologram if you go Neutrals. Sorry, nothing for you. The plot is okay, pretty standard. I like how sassy the space stations are. Specifically, I like the Imperial space station when doing this quest line. They're very sassy. I like them. They are funny. I'm going to put this one in... I think it's a set of space quests where I don't remember hating any of the missions. And since it has a good introductory of destroying a Corvette, which you might not have done at this point, because nothing really requires to be ace here, I'm gonna put this up at A tier. It's good reward. Get badges out of it too. Good reward. I'd put that at A tier for a space quest. Next, though, we're moving on to Mustafar with Trials of Obi-Wan. And when I say Trials of Obi-Wan, I don't mean the whole expansion. I am speaking of the quests that are the prerequisite quests to Fate of the Galaxy. So, a history lesson, part 1 and 2, Symbiosis, the Stormlord, whatever, Sickness of the Stormlord, all those. Those are the ones I'm talking about. I have a list of them in my starter level 90 guide, minus the Chew Gondor one. That was not required, but I tell people to do it anyways. These quests are better written than most of the Kashyyyk quests in that they do some good world building for Mustafar, help set the stage. You get a variety of rewards, some, not so useful stuff like some stinky weapons, or just armor that's not typically very useful, stuff like that. However, you do get some very good items, specifically the buff items like Serpent Shard, Shard of Offense and Defense or whatever, the red and blue ones. You get the Sith holocron thingy from the Hidden Fragments quest or Shadow Fragments quest or whatever. And of course, the Mustafarian injector, the best buff item out of this set, as it's literally used all of the time in everybody's builds, because why not? And yeah, it has you going all over Mustafar. I think it's a really good set of quests, and some of the quests kind of foreshadow what you're going to be doing in the Galaxy proper quest with the Ethereal Spirit. And they have some good or bad options to choose from, such as the Cursed Shard, where you can lob it into the lava, or you can just pawn it off on someone else, make it someone else's problem. So I think it's pretty narratively well done. Some of it can be missed, though, if you're not reading the pop-ups or reading the text. So if you're just smashing through it, it's going to feel like doing anything else, especially since all the quests are go here, click this, or go here, kill this. But I think it's pretty good. I'm going to put it up in A tier. Put up in A tier. There's some good challenge there. Most of it's not going to be too challenging, but for the at-level player who may not have best endgame gear yet, they're going to have appropriate challenge with that. Similarly, now we have the Fate of the Galaxy, which is, again, I think already an appropriate level of challenge and has an okay narrative. I would say that overall the storytelling is actually less than Trials of Obi-Wan, because if you were skipping the Trials of Obi-Wan plot, you're going to have no idea what this Ghost Man's talking about. And, because he leverages the history of Mustafar, so if you weren't paying attention... second of all, the quests are pretty much the same. Go here, do this, and repeat. Some of them can be kind of nebulous to find. I always have to look up the waypoints for triggering some of these things. Similarly, a couple of the Trials of Obi-Wan's are like that too, but it being in the main quest, Fate of the Galaxy, is a little bit more like, bleh. You also have, I don't know why they wrote the Ethereal Spirit like they did, because obviously, it's Obi-Wan, right? They kind of write him less as a wise master, more of kind of like a frustrated old man, which, given some of the dialogue options you have, that makes sense. But even sometimes he just kind of feels a trash talk you. Similarly, this is like a Chosen One Force plot line, and I know Star Wars is like the Force is in all of us kind of thing, but this definitely felt geared towards Jedi or Force sensitive narrative playstyles, not as much as the everybody else. So it felt a little weird doing it as non-Force sensitive, but not as bad as other plots in other games. The rewards from this one, of course, awesome. You get either the Shard of Retaliation or the Layer Crystal from the final fight, from fighting Lord Fart or whatever. Fortonus or something. I didn't write his name down. So really good. And he also drops the Lava Skiff to eat, which is one of the slowest speeders in the game, but in Legends you can use the vehicle upgrade kit to make it not suck. So there's that. And having the part where the Brotherhood assassins are chasing you down and spawning on you across Mustafar is cool, even though for the most part they're just gonna like despawn when you drive too far away from them, because they're usually gonna be on your speeder trying to get A to B while that's happening. But it's pretty cool. I like it. I think it's an A tier. I think it's an A tier. We'll throw it up there. We'll give Obi-Wan his flowers. It's fine. Let's see. Next but not last, we got Exploring Mustafar. So these are all the quests that fall outside of the Trials Obi-Wan and Fate of the Galaxy stuff. So this is like the hitting the miners markers for the map and the Men 6 mining facility area. This is also like the Razor Runner camp quests that I forgot existed. Just kind of mostly things that have you moving about the planet and doing stuff, taking you to areas that maybe Trials of Obi-Wan or Fate of the Galaxy don't take you, which is important because, again, some of those nebulous triggers actually you would drive over if you're doing all of the quests. So if you're only doing the bare minimum, it's easy to miss stuff, where if you're doing everything, you actually can kind of hit everything fairly naturally. I'm not going to say that's good quest design, because it's still easy to miss some of those triggers, but it's smarter than I give it credit for. There are a few repeatable quests in this, which are typically dropped off loot items, so like the Talus horn, ivory tusk, or whatever, and the Zandank like claw or fang or something that give you like a couple credits if you want to keep killing creatures, I guess. You get some okay weapons out of this, but nothing really anything better than what you'll get in Trials of Obi-Wan, which has a lot of great starter weapons like the Stormcaller sword for melee, or the Old Republic weapons you get from History Lesson Part 1. I think it's Part 1. I think Part 2 is the armor. I don't remember. But there's not too much narrative in these. There's some like contextual narrative, like what the Razor Runners are doing in that camp. There's a lot of lore drop via mining markers. I wish that was delivered more diegetically, though, via quests rather than taped onto markers. Similarly, the Razor Runner Camp one, which has you looking at the glyphs, I really, really like. Mainly because they give you a lot of cool lore about Mustafar. So I'll probably rate this. It's got to be better than Legacy Naboo, right? We'll throw it up there. All right, next we have Champion of Mustafar, which is another series of quests that we're going to first review the prerequisite quests for it. So the intro here. This is supplies for the miners, replace the air filters, salvage or die, and the down ship. These will mostly reward you with credits and access to the rest of the quests, which is what is most interested in. I think it does a really good job of setting the stage of helping Men 6 deal with we need more resources, or else the Empire, who we are in contract with, will take over the facility. We don't want that. I'm like, this is a good setup and a good plot, and kind of does a good job of introducing his desperation. A pretty realistic setup, but the rewards are pretty vapid, which makes sense for the following quests, which do give you some good rewards and opportunities. I'm gonna throw it in. It's gotta be at least as good as Exploring Mustafar, right? Yeah, throw it in there. So next, for the rest of the Champions of Mustafar themed quests, we're gonna be breaking it down by instance, starting and in order of appearance. So first is the Kubaza Beetle Cavern. This is the one where you have to go do the transfer the AI quest, building the uplink to transfer the AI from the down Republic ship and sending it over to the Old Republic facility nearby. To do this, you have to go into a cave in the central volcano and protect a droid who is dropping uplink antennas from the local Kubazas, who are extremely aggressive, and they will A, destroy the droid, and B, destroy the antenna uplinks. So the instance, which you can do once a day, you have to first clear out the Kubaza nests, otherwise engineers keep spawning, and Kubaza engineers will just delete the antennas that spawn. 2, protect the droid from the spawning workers or warriors or whatever that will spawn at different points around the cavern. and then 3, defeat the foreman to completely stop the Kubaza from showing up in there anymore. And the foreman's a boss that has 4 elite guards with him. Inside this instance, there is a collectible item, which you'll find in a lot of these instances in Mustafar that were likely added later on when the collection system was introduced. But more importantly is the loot the Kubaza foreman drops, which is the sprint enhancement stim, which is the most notable item, but there's some interesting global loot he drops. The weapons are pretty whatever. The quests you've done up to this point would have given you comparable weapons, so not as much of a peak. It's okay. It's can be done in like 15 minutes on average for a slow run. You can do it solo, mainly because you can exploit the AI's ability to path the area, trapping not just a lot of the beetles, but the boss itself just on lava edges if you know where to stand, which they're not hard to find. The rewards are good, but they're not great. Other than farming this instance for isomerase enzymes or Beastmaster and sprint stims, it's not great. The only reason it's not going into D tier is because it was required to unlock much better instances, which I do consider a reward. And narratively, it kind of makes sense, I guess. I don't know why we couldn't have put the antenna outside the volcano, but hey, whatever, man. Alright, next is the Old Republic facility, which I know would have already appeared in the Trials of Obi-Wan quest, but I wanted to rate it here because it is mandatory for the Champion Mustafar as well, and we're doing instances, and this is an instance. The Old Republic facility is the building located in the northeast section of Mustafar, which has you doing a variety of things, such as reactivating the facility, getting information out of it for the history lesson, and then you can fuse the shattered shard fragments back into one piece, which gives you the Sith holocron buff or whatever. And then you also then have to come here to talk to the ship AI after you transfer it. This is a cool instance, and I like the idea of this kind of more quest-oriented instance, which we've kind of seen before. That's tailored to like maybe 1 or 2 players, like a small group. In its current state, you could definitely do this by yourself. The only 2 enemies in it that are going to give you any trouble are the Ancient Zandank and the Ancient Taurus, which unfortunately, while they have the unique drops of a glowing ledger and a glowing back to ample, they're all but worthless. The ledger doesn't make anything of use in the current game, and the ample only makes a stuffed back decoration, which I guess is unique, but otherwise not really important. So there's no really good loot from here. The part where you have to destroy droids to get into the terminal for the history lesson part kind of sucks, because this is completely random. Unless you're a smuggler, you could slice the terminal and skip it. But yeah, I really like the unique setting and theming. I like the general plot about it and the general plot of the facility, but it feels like, again, they established ideas but weren't have the time to execute on it. Revisiting it's never really a highlight for me. I'm going to put it down in D tier. And I know it gates better things, but there's a reason I don't go back in after completing it. So here's Droid Factory 1, Decrepit Droid Factory, which has us tasked with talking to the Delta computer in Old Republic facility, which is the ship AI from before, going out and clearing this factory out so the ship AI can transfer over to it. And I guess for reasons. And the reasons that we're helping them is that we believe that we can help the Men 6 Corporation meet their quotas by reactivating this old separatist factory, which was used to make droids for the Clone Wars. Makes sense. Reasonable setup. Maybe the ship AI seems kind of weird that we've met up to this point, but it's okay. We'll just go ahead and do it. This instance is, in its current form, pretty empty. There's a lot of chaff to kill. There's some stupid door puzzles where it's just you're clicking a thing in a certain timer. It just works as an artificial gate to require at least 3 players to get through the first door. Nothing else requires 3 players in this instance. You're just fighting battle droids and super battle droids. There's nothing memorable in this instance. A lot of the mechanics can be circumvented, or they're so minor you just don't even realize they're there. All of the loot is pretty much useless except for the loot from the factory Guardian, which again, the only worthy loot he drops is the Guardian Lightning Cannon, which is only notable for bounty hunters because it has a higher elemental damage for electricity, which is nichely useful, but I wouldn't worry about it if you don't have one. And then the glowing loot the factory Guardian drops is used in some moderately valuable combinations, namely, I think the warmly glowing eyeball is used in a few weapon schematics or coils. I don't remember which one. But otherwise, I don't like running this instance when I do Mustafar runs unless somebody needs Droid Factory one. I just skip it. Do I like it less than Kubaza? Yeah. Do I like it as much as Old Factory? Yeah, I usually just opt for buying loot from people from Droid Factory. There's just no really reason to run it once you finish it, to be honest, other than the novelty, I guess. Next is Droid Army, which is better on the loot scale, specifically on Legends, and all of the droids here drop copious amounts of junk loot, which is great for anybody who reverse engineers. It's basically the substitute for them not dropping credits, and if you don't reverse engineer, you can easily get stacks of like 60 or 80 of like 7 or 8 different pieces. I did the math once, and like on average, I get like 400 to 500 pieces of junk loot every time I do this. That's really cool. The final boss drops some very valuable glowing items, namely the warmly glowing metallic eye, not the warmly glowing eye ball, the metallic eye. They're different, which can be used with Master Taming Necklace and some other combinations, and can also drop the warmly glowing artifact for the lava crystal color crystal. However, this is another one where I like the concept, hate the execution. So the idea is you have to defend 2 camps from the invading droid army that, now that we've learned HK-47 is manufacturing in the droid factory that we transferred him over to and gave him control of. Oops, my bad. Didn't mean to put a homicidal droid in charge of a factory that makes droids for war. Oopsies. And you're trying to present the coin set mining camps from basically being wiped off the face of Mustafar. So there is the forward camp and then the main camp. If you lose the forward camp, the droids get a high morale buff and you get a low morale buff. You being the players. However, that buff can be purged using the medic purge, your officers, the other one, synaptic stimulator. Basically, you can remove the debuffs. That's not a big deal. Yeah, the droids are buffed, but they're not scaled up well. If anything, it makes it slightly more interesting than it otherwise be. You can defend the forward camp, but usually the strategy is you get the 2. You talk to the 2 mining captains who are over there, bring them back to the main camp and deploy their troops there, and then you just let the NPCs do most of the work for you. Because there's just so many miners, and there's so few droids coming up to the miners at once that you can just blitz through them, especially since most droids don't have AoEs. I think only like the gold bosses, destroyer droids, have an AoE, and then the forward commander's guard have the grenades, which are freaking annoying. But other than that, the miners are probably going to be fine. They don't really need your help. I like the idea of having the det chargers and like placing traps, but traps in Galaxies kind of suck and they never work. And at least beyond the NGE update, they just do like no to who cares amounts of damage, and they're not worth the jank. If you want to mess around with it, go for it. The worst part of this instance, though, is it has a hard 30-minute timer. The boss doesn't spawn until a hard 25 minutes has passed. You can't make it go any faster. And if you're there to complete the quest, you have to wait the full like 30 minutes to get the quest complete update. So your first time you're doing this, it's going to be a minimum 30 minutes. When you do complete the instance, though, even though you don't get any good items dropped, you're walking around with a lot of junk loot and the high morale buff for winning, which gives you a bunch of luck and other stats, which is great to use for whatever you're doing. I think it shares a buff slot with a few other buffs, so you can't stack it with like Meatlump Kiss, but you can stack it with some other things. And if it wasn't for the hard 25 minutes of my life spent every time I do this instance, I'd probably rate it higher. But you know, I do it more often than Droid Factory. Probably the same amount I do Kubaza, probably a little less. So I'll throw it up in C tier. And narratively, it's cool. I like the kind of like strategy aspect of like having to defend the camp. But you know, it's not great. It's not good idea, bad execution, which you could say about almost the entirety of Star Wars Galaxies. Next is the operational Droid Factory, or Droid Factory 2. This has you going back to the Droid Factory to shut it down because you now need to fix your oopsies. And Men 6 is telling you you need to do that now that we have some breathing room with having stemmed the droid army. Yeah, so I do this instance more than Droid Factory 1 because the rewards are inherently more valuable, specifically off Doombringer. He can drop the Old Republic Shield Generator schematic, which is good, and the Mag Seal, Warren Geo Mag Seal Detector, which is used with the Master Taming Necklace and is good, but otherwise his rest of the drops are forgettable. Other than the DP rifle for bounty hunters is a cool skin, so that's cool. But other than that, I don't think you can recraft it still. And I hate the mechanics in this instance, namely the first fight. Honestly, if they just removed Uruk and Besh, I would be, I would rate this instance higher. Like, for those who don't know, Uruk and Besh are two droids separated in separate rooms in the first area, and you have to burn them down at the same rate. But I don't know, it just doesn't feel like it works. Like some days it works and it's really easy, other days it sucks and it's not. Devastator's fine, that's fine. You just have somebody running errands during the fight, and then Master Droid Engineer is a fine fight. It's like you better kill it before all the NPCs stack up. Fixer 1, I don't know why he has 1,000,000 health. He doesn't need 1,000,000 health. He doesn't have a freaking mechanic. He's the boss that comes after the main boss of Master Droid Engineer. He does have some good drops though, mainly the Warm and Glowing Sensor Jammer. That is the best drop from him. It's pretty valuable, glowy for some certain combinations, but otherwise, it's kind of whatever. I do like the Doombringer fight mechanically, like having that, ooh, you gotta stop him from blowing up the thing, but the fact you can just drag him into the other room and ignore the mechanic altogether is kind of, whatever. I hate doing this instance. If it wasn't for the loot, I'd never do it. D tier. I'm gonna put it in F. I'll put it in D tier. I'll say do it at least once, but you don't have to worry about doing it again. Speaking of doing it at least once, here's HK-47. This instance is, again, if it wasn't for the loot, I wouldn't do it. They didn't do HK-47 justice here. Like, even before the NGE came in and kind of messed stuff up with how the thing was designed. The first boss fight is you're just waiting for shields to be done so you can kill the NPCs. That's it. Forward Commanders Mark II's boring. Second fight, AK Prime, also boring. He just does a big AoEs, one of which is a line, so don't point him at your friends. The other one's a big fart, so just don't stand near him if you can help it. Kill the ads, who cares? Both of them drop garbage. Forward Commander, the best thing he drops the Warm and Glowing Pillbox, I guess, which is not a very valuable glowy. AK Prime, I guess. I think he drops the scroll. I think that's probably the best thing he drops, but also sucks. Yeah, he drops the rocket launcher, which I guess is fine, but at that point, you're probably using a better heavy weapon, which is basically any crafted heavy weapon. The next boss, with the Fallen Commanders, also sucks. You're just waiting to attack enemies that spawn. And then there is a Commanders is a fun mechanic because they'll build up fast, so that's like a fun rush, but it's only really a challenge if you're doing it with like solo or like 3 people. If you're doing it with a full group, it's nothing. You don't remember it. I don't think anything he drops is worth anything. I think his glow is useless. I don't remember. The CYM prototype, the lightsaber wielding one. Mechanically, that fight sucks. Just don't stand on the boss and try and don't die to poisons, I guess, and don't stand on exploding Kubazas, I suppose. He drops probably some of the better loot, though, with the Jedi Master Cloak being the second best cloak in the game outside your Shadow Point and Cloak of Hate. So there's that. And he drops the Warmly Glowing Crystal, I believe, which is more useful, but not the most useful glowy. Next is the GK Oppressor, which this fight just doesn't feel like it works as intended. Just throws a bunch of ads at you, and usually people just end up cheesing it by pulling the boss to either one side or the other to avoid getting all the ads spawn at the same time. And the ads purging debuffs and just spamming debuffs, or purging buffs and spamming debuffs is annoying. The legends changed to make Serotonin Purge only like suppress buffs is welcome since it applies to these. That's super nice. It was really frustrating doing this fight and be like, cool, lost my entertainer buff. But yeah, this fight sucks mechanically. I just hate it. It just doesn't feel like it works. It just doesn't feel like it works right. But the loot's good. Specifically, the warm glowing fragments are used in like a lot of good glowing combinations. I think all the other stuff sucks. HK-47 himself fight also kind of sucks. You kill his 2 groups before you even engage with him, and then you just pull him away from his ship, and then most of the ads won't aggro to you, or they'll just take a while running over to you. So you're just going to avoid a lot of the extra ads, which are just enemies from throughout the instance. So Kamikaze, Kubazas, and the GK droids that strip buffs, and some commanders or whatever. It just sucks. The YT-2400 being guaranteed drops good. Same with the Warmly Glowing Antidote to get those syringe, the Omniglobular syringe is assembled, and the worm going engine is a cool drop for the lava crystal. And I think that's all that really matters for drops from him. Some of his weapon skins are cool, but you're not going to be really using them, so whatever. There might be another glowy that he drops that doesn't suck, but I don't think so. Yeah, this is another one where it's like, yeah, I do it, but I only do it because I'm trying to chase that high of getting good glowies. Most of these fights suck. Moving on to Sheer Car. I not really introduce, not really much lore other than the minor marker. D tier. Just actually F tier. You don't need to do this. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. HK-47 Sheer Car dropped the one-handed lightsaber and two-handed lightsaber schematics for the Old Republic hilts respectively. They're worse than 5th gen, generally speaking. Especially like if you have good enough power crystals, they're worse than 5th gen. So who cares? They're not really relevant anymore. The glowy Sheer Car drops are good, but they're cheap enough where you just buy them. You don't need to do this. The only reason to go in the instance is to say you've done it and get the collection item that's in the back of the cave. It's just a tank and spank. There's nothing interesting. Her ads are more dangerous than she is. As for the plot resolution for the HK-47 plot line, I'd still probably put it in B tier where the intro is good. The hologram's good, but the instance itself sucks. But yeah, Sheer Car, honestly, other than the novelty of just doing it, there's no real reason to go do it. Next is the Rebel Theme Park. Get some badges here. The rewards kind of stinko. The Rebel banner is a cool decoration, and the Force camo armor is actually like the best protection stats you can get out of crafted armor, and also has some attributes baked in, which is good. But by the time you're doing this theme park, which is like an end game theme park designed for at least a small group, you're probably going to be already rocking crafted armor, and that's going to be better than the Force camo armor. And since there's a Force camo, there's a camo kits you can put on armor. The Force camo is not really a big selling point. Some of the quest beats are cool. I never like doing things for C-3PO, but like Wedge is cool. The Luke stuff is very Force sensitive aligned and helping him explore Force sensitivity, which is cool, I guess. I don't even remember what Leia did, to be honest. I just remember like seeing her and telling I'm busy, go do this thing. I'm like, okay. Mon Mothma shows up. The other general guy who I can't remember with a beard shows up. You know him. He was in the Situation Room on Yavin 4. He was there. Dodonna, whatever. I honestly don't remember any of the subplots other than we need to just hide our presence from Imperials and help Rebels, which is fine but not super memorable. Unless you want the badge and the banner, I'm gonna have to put this one. Is it C tier? Yeah, I'd say it's better than Talus Legacy. Yeah, it's more worthwhile doing. The rewards are better, plot's there, but you know what is also there is the Imperial Theme Park. And I held a poll on my YouTube channel in the community tab, which I hold polls there about stuff, typically Galaxies oriented. And you all voted for the Imperial Theme Park being better than Rebel Theme Park. And on reflection, at first I wasn't sure about that after doing the Imperial Theme Park, but then thinking about it, yeah, you know what? I do think the Imperial Theme Park's better. It presents a little bit more of a challenge. It's harder to solo. Going into the Deathwatch bunker sucks, but you only have to go past the first door to find Mara Jade. Mara Jade is... I don't know why Mara Jade is there, to be honest. I guess just a nod to the books. She literally has 2 lines, and they're basically about to... Did Vader send you? Cool, bye. And like, that's it. I don't know why she's there. But the plot's actually interesting. Vader has you like dealing with like dark side cult fringes, and you could choose to kill them like Vader tells you or not. And you like find pieces of the Death Star, and you're trying to find stuff about like where Luke is and ties in the movies again. A lot of cool legacy characters shows up from the book, like Thrawn's there. He's very curt to the point. A lot of the quest givers are just kind of straight to the point, but that's also kind of their characters, so you could argue it's appropriate. The rewards aren't as good. The Scout Force camo armor has the same problems as the Rebel one, but I think it's actually unique looking. I don't know. Downside though, it's recon armor, so I don't know. I'll put it in I'll put it in B tier. Yeah, some of the quests here were more obnoxious in my opinion, like the tower one in the beginning. And again, going in the Death Watch is kind of annoying. I didn't think the Rebel Theme Park was as bad. Here's Rohawk's figurines. This is the introduction to Aurilia. This has you just going around clicking Rohawk's figurines around Aurilia. Some of them can be kind of hard to find. Most of them, not really. I think this is a good introductory quest, and it's a good reward with the box of achievements, letting you store tokens. So anything like most theme park currencies, most factional currencies, etc. I think it's a nice, appropriate reward. We're gonna go with B tier. And honestly, that's mostly because the box of achievements. It's not like... It's required doing, and it doesn't take long, and it gives you some plot, and it gets the job done. But I feel weird putting it in A tier, so we're not gonna. All right, so next we're ranking both the quest and the heroic. I know I didn't show the heroics in the 1 to 90 series, but I've done them all in VUM, and I've done them lots of times on other characters. So we're just going to read them together because it's the same narrative, and the heroic instance itself is like the narrative payoff. So when I say Aquaman, I also mean the Aquaman and the Night Sister Headdress quest. The quest reward for completing Night Sister Headdress is the Night Sister little key that looks like a little holocron, which is a nice decorative item, I guess, when you're done with it. But the quest itself has you basically discovering that there's some ancient evil coming back with a powerful Night Sister, and this is Aquaman, and she's going to come back. She was put in Night Sister jail for being just too damn evil. I guess she enslaved too many dudes. I don't know. Either way, you're running around the galaxy trying to like get these shards, fuse them together to form a key to get in. I don't even know how these shards ended up all over the galaxy when the Night Sisters are like pretty notorious for never leaving Dathomir ever. So I'm not going to worry about that though. You do end up in a lot of cool locations, and I do like the settings for a lot of the areas that you do visit. You do visit some areas that you won't otherwise visit if you were skipping a lot of quests, which a lot of people like. Their only like referral to Mount Shalott on lock is I went there to try and fuse the shards together and then didn't. So it takes you around the galaxy. It sees you some places. Now the instance itself is okay. It's an appropriate challenge for people who obviously like are still gearing. They don't have their 5-piece story. I think it's fine. I think the mechanics are good from a introductory endgame mechanic standpoint. The first fight's pretty simple. Just, you know, keep Nadine and Gorvo apart, kill Gorvo, whatever. Lely High is just annoying and a waste of time. The third one is to test can you stand out of AoEs and do a fight. Fine, basic stuff. The fourth fight is did you bring all 4 elements, which fine. I just wish the icons showed the elements they were vulnerable to, like the Legends exclusive instances do, rather than the ones they're rather than showing the opposite every time. Like, I know you can memorize the name and element, but I'm not doing that. I just look at the buff icon and go, acid is electricity, and then I swap. So that's fine. It can be bypassed, though, if everyone stacks up and you got a couple commandos. As a mechanic, Aquaman's fight herself. That's fine. It makes the group coordinate a little bit, spread out. The loot in this instance is pretty disappointing. The only cool thing I think is the Night Sister head Carnage Beret. Everything else is kind of like stat loot. Nothing really unique. I guess the Geo Saber drops here. I think it drops in 2 ones. Who cares? I don't hate it. Don't love it. I'll put it in B tier, because why not? A B tier for the unique Aquaman boobies, because everybody wants a pair like that, but you can't. It's a unique model. Sorry, guys. Your sliders don't go that high. Speaking of sliders not going high, here's IG-88, and I can't get my boredom slider up any higher than putting this shit in, I'll put this in F tier. Can I? Can't, no. We'll put in D tier. The reason I'm putting in D tier is, first of all, the Nim Slicer quest is cool. The characters are quirky, well written. I do like that the plot is Nim's like, hey, what the hell is that in the distance, and has you doing stuff. I like how it's written and set up. I hate the townie facility. I hate running around it. This is boring. People just mainly use it to farm junk loot. I hate that IG-88 is just kind of dropped on your lap again. There's no lead up to what he is. Doesn't lead up. Like, Aqua Min gets, like, some hype build up. She's got, like, a deranged Madden Night Sister in prison in Aurilia. There's no hype to IG-88. It's like, boom, there's the boy. Did you play Shadows of the Empire and see his brother? No. Do you remember him from, like, the 5 seconds he was on screen in Empire Strikes Back? No. Here he is, and he's just basically HK-47 again. So, like, they don't do a good job of hyping him up. The instance sucks. It's get exploded on, don't stand in fire, and just kill IG-88. The loot, there's some cool furniture. That's cool. And the dented head is a meme buff item. Some people on their must buff get buff list. It's on my, if you loot it, cool. If you don't spend the money on it. It's either going to save your life in a fight, kill you, or not make a difference. So whatever. It sucks. I only run this. If this instance took longer than 3 minutes, I just would not opt to do it. And also, I guess it gives you the tokens for jewelry, but whatever. It's only getting out of F tier because I like Nim Slicer. It's quest. And I like the 2 Bothans. They're funny. TK. This is another. It is F tier. This is straight F tier. No hesitation. 100%. The Tusken King quest is given to you by a Tusken Otaku, I guess, or cultural appropriator, pick your flavor, in the guild hall, and then you speak with their like college professor or scholar or whatever in Mos Espa, who's like, hey, could you go do some cultural plundering for me, my guy? Just go in and take their most sacred artifacts. It'll be cool. We're gonna put them in a museum. It's gonna be great for my rep. Can you go do it? And then you do it, and then they're like, uh-oh, the Tuskens are mad. They're coming to kill you. I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe going into their homes, slaughtering them, looting their cultural artifacts for our entertainment. And they then want to come kill all of us. That's silly. Terrible plot. Miserable. The instance itself is peak Star Wars Galaxies, great idea or terrible execution. From like a concept standpoint, my favorite little strategy puzzle thing going on there. Everyone's kind of has a job, but in reality, only like 2 people need to know what they're doing: the medic and whoever you tell to go cover cloner. Everyone else just kind of picks a spot and stands in it. You don't even need to juggle between the 2 mansion spawns for warlord trade. You can just sit in front of mansion and shoot everything from there. It doesn't matter. They path there. It's pretty dead-brained. The experts can glitch sometimes and get stuck on buildings, which prevents them from completing their objectives. I don't know how many... I wouldn't know the Mos Espa city layout if it wasn't for this instance, so I guess there's that. The loot sucks. A lot of the Tusken furniture is fine, but it's kind of ugly or niche. Basically, if you're not using it in a Tatooine-style house, it just looks out of place. The Tusken Elite Tusken rifle is non-unique. It just has better stats than the normal Tusken rifle. The Elite Gurdif, whatever, the baton, that is unique, so that's cool at least. Tusken Rudsack's great, but the Tusken boss fights just hit him. He's not scary enough to really worry about his wind buffet or a heel cut. So whatever, it goes in F tier. I hate this instance, like everyone does. If it was like half the length, but like higher difficulty and required more coordination, people would love it. Like, even doing the spooky version of it where they're all like at least like bigger health bars is at least like, oh, I might die, but this one's just kind of like, I might fall asleep. Anyways, Lost Star Destroyer. The plot is some black sun got control of the Lost Star Destroyer, and for the Imperials, that would look bad, having a corrupt Imperial admiral side with some pirates. And for the Rebels, I guess having pirates have a Star Destroyer would be bad because the Empire doesn't have it. Honestly, I always lose the plot on the Rebel side. I don't know why they give a shit. This should be a good thing. It's distracting the Empire, right? Like, whatever. Get it where you got it. I don't know. There's not a good call to action for Rebels here. As for neutrals, I guess the plot is you have an opportunity for money and plundering while chaos is going on. Steal some Imperial stuff, I guess. Whatever. Plots, whatever. The quest itself sucks. The salvage computer puzzle's fine. I don't hate it. It's as much as I hate the newspaper clipping puzzles. That one's fine. It doesn't take that long. You only have to do it once. And it's mostly I hate driving around in the piss middle of nowhere in Yavin, and then piss middle of nowhere at Endor, and then having to hit Black Sun. Every time I do this prerequisite quest, it takes like 20 to 30 Black Sun kills. And man, they got big health bars. It takes time, and they don't drop anything. It sucks, man. I've cleared out that entire bunker like twice once trying to get the drop. It's miserable. As for the instance itself, similarly miserable. The first fight's fine. I hate that the grenades can double hit sometimes and just instantly kill somebody, so that sucks. The bonus fight Legends added is fine, but it's just a tank and spank. It's not really anything to think about. Having the collections on board's cool, but no one ever wants to let me go get the collections upstairs. So I usually just do it and they'll be like, where's the other guy? I'm like, well, I was clicking the statue. Leave me alone, whatever. What else? The one officer whose mechanic is I have SFP and it's going to get purged by the medic immediately is funny. Stupid, but funny. The Black Sun hallway is literally like where you put kids when they're bad. It's like you're going to be down here and you're going to eat your Black Sun serving and you're going to like it. It just takes too long. I know, like, you were able to, like, cheese it by, like, running to the end, killing the Black Sun there, and then, like, Chief Olam would bug and, like, teleport to the end. I don't mind too much that Legends fixed it. I just wish the Black Sun dropped something. The fact they don't drop anything other than, like, credits sucks. Like, at least let them drop, like, I don't know, some of the rare junk loot that can spawn in instances. I think making the excavation tool chest more common would be fine. Or just like weapon augmentations, slightly slicing stuff. They're Black Sun. Let them drop some slicing stuff. Just put something on their loot table. It's so barren. Even the Tuskens drop like good junk loot and stat loot. The Black Sun's out here with freaking empty pockets trying to steal a Star Destroyer with stabs. Like, give them something, man. Come on. Sate sucks. He's just a tank and spank. There's a guy before Satan, and I almost forgot he existed, and I think that explains enough. I'm gonna put this one in, also, you have to fly out to get there, which I like the novelty of it, but I also hate that I have to launch then hyper. If I could just launch and fly straight to it, that would be nice. It's not really that big of a deal. I'm not gonna really penalize it for that. It's some fun novelty. Oh, I wish the tokens were actually used for something. I don't know why. I end up with like 300 Black Sun tokens, but then like no Moss Aspa tokens. So I wish the token amounts were like re-leveled a little bit. I know Legends added other ways to spend tokens, which is nice, but usually this gets spent on 1% crit like Aurilia crystals because I just don't know what to do with all these Lost Star Destroyer tokens. I'm gonna throw this one in. Is it really as bad as IG-88? Yeah, IG-88 sucks, but it's short. This one sucks less, but it's too long. And some of the loot's good though. Actually, Ace Pilot packs are good. The Whistler's a cool carbine. Lamprey's okay. It's whatever. C? Do I put up to C? C? Yeah. We'll give it up a C because Droid Armory's up here. That's gonna be like an equivalent, right? All right, next one's everyone's favorite question mark. Exar. Controlling Spirit is a cool quest. I think the strongest of the 5 quests, if I had to rate them, was Nim Slicer, but I just like the writing in that one better. But in terms of like leveraging locations and being spooky, I think this quest does it better than the Akva Min quest, to be honest, the Nicester address. You go to some more unique locations, not just locations that are just nice POIs in the galaxy. There's some more stuff to do there. It's actually kind of hard if you're not appropriately geared or you have a certain build. You might need a friend to do this one, so that's kind of cool. I think all of these pre-quests should be like mini group quests, like, maybe like 2 or 3 people, not like 8 people, but, a couple. It'd be appropriate because then when we're up for then grouping up for the content. The plot's just basically like, what happened to all my students, says the CorSec University. Oh, they all went and joined a cult, which is just the American experience in Star Wars, right? Anyways. As for the instance itself, open hand, the first fight, which is the open fist to hate or whatever. I don't remember. I can't remember their names. Fight sucks. The speedrun strategy of like heal cutting and damage cutting him and then just bursting him's cool, but that's not viable for most pickup groups. Either they don't have the damage or they don't know what's going on, so you just end up doing the typical strategy of just have 1 or 2 people run around with the boss in the corner while you kill all the ads that would heal him, and then you slowly kill him. I mean, it's nice to have like a test of restraint. I like that mechanic conceptually. I just wish it wasn't, if you fail it the entire fight, everyone basically starts dying and you have to reset the fight, because resetting fights in Galaxy sucks because you have to go rebuff. The floor AoEs are fine. That's just another like test. Second fight, Minder, whatever. Take and spank, kill everything. Third fight, Caretaker sucks. Wasted my time. Drops are bad except for excavation tool chest, and I guess if you really want roots. I just, it's just like again, at gear level, it's probably a okay challenge, but for everybody who's like moderately geared in the end game, you're going to be cheesing that fight. I just did a run yesterday where people were like, isn't there like a poison gas mechanic in this fight? And I'm like, we killed her too fast. That doesn't show up. So it just it hasn't aged well. And honestly, there needs to be more going on during the fight. There needs to be more strategic challenge for the group and coordination. It's just mostly standing there and hitting a health bar. The next one, the guy who farts fire, I think that's the open hand. I don't remember. Who cares? That fight's fine. I think making people like slow down, watch their debuffs, that's fine. And he actually kind of hits sort of hard comparatively to some of the other bosses. So, makes the medic work and makes the whoever's tanking it, use their cooldowns for once, the defensive ones, if they have any. As for the final fight, honestly, if there wasn't the elemental swapping fight, I would be higher, but the fact that the elemental switching is so high punishing is what sucks. You have, I think, like 3 or 5 seconds before the next element buff falls off, and if you are not on it, you just die. You just die, and you have to hope the medic stasis it and revives it, or someone's there to back up and switch. You just die. And this is an inordinately punishing mechanic for people who might be playing with high latency. Like, I know they had European and Japanese servers on live, but what happens if you're in, Eastern Europe and the servers are on the West Coast? Or what happens if you're in Australia or you're playing on a server because it matches your time zone better, but it's a different region? Or, like, whatever. It sucks that just latency can cause you to commonly fail this mechanic. The ping-ponging's fine. Sometimes I feel the threat's weird and it's inconsistent, but I can't tell if that's just Star Wars jank or if that's, people messing up. So I'm not going to ding it. I do like having some melee required mechanics. I think that's the only required melee mechanic in all of the original heroics. So it's nice giving the melees a time to shine. Second fight's just everyone just avoids the AoEs by staying on the staircase, so whatever. And then the last part is just a neg and spank, so kind of boring. I don't think the mural's that cool, everybody. It has a lot of notoriety from live, but it's kind of worn off as time's gone on. The Masasi Guardian Carbine's cool, but it's locked to cold, so an L for Carbine users there. That's just basically the weapon you swap to use cold. But you're never really going to use it as a Carbine. The Masasi Enforcer Blade is a cool two-handed weapon. I will give it that. Fresco Roots, whatever. Salute's okay. I like it more than Lost Star Destroyer, but I don't like it as much as Akva Min, so we're gonna dump that here. Also, don't know why I didn't pick dump Lost Star Destroyer there, but there we go. All right, next heroic, which is not a pre-quest fight, is Battle of Echo Base. Again, didn't see this one in the 90 series, but I've done this multiple times, many times. Battle of Echo Base, has 2 versions of it. There's the Imperial and the Rebel one. You can guess what you're doing. You're reenacting the events of the film. If you're Imperial, you're hopping in ATSTs, assaulting the shield generator by protecting the ATATs. Then you're assaulting the Rebel base, killing all sons of bitches, and protecting the bombs you set up to blow up the base. And then the third arc is, again, kill all sons of bitches. You can get a perfect rating AFKing this instance for the most part. The Imperial NPCs just tend to win. It's not very hard, and it doesn't take very long. The Rebel side, I think, is a minimum 20 or 25 minutes because it's all fixed hard timers. You can't push phases any faster for the most part. The first part, flying snowspeeders, is fun, cool, novel, like it, great. Second part, clearing the base, cool. You have to split up, coordinate. I like that. Then defending the escort's the annoying part because there's so many ways to do it. You have 1 or 2 people kill assassins, the rest sit on the elevator. You have one person killing the assassins. You have no one killing the assassins, and you sit on the elevator. And sometimes that just works because the assassins just get pantsed by the rebels remaining in there, so you don't really need to do it. And sometimes this is autoplay. The third phase is fun though. I like when the groups like start the first barricade and then they procedurally fall back. It feels more thematic, but most people just kind of go back to like the point where like all the strong rebel NPCs are in the turrets, and then they like pet pull the ATSTs to one side, and they just or pull with the Jedi, and then they just kill everything on the left side. Not as interesting, but functional. I understand. I think it's more interesting the Imperial instance because it's a higher difficulty based on coordination. It's not necessarily the enemies are harder. There's just more mechanics that everybody has to execute on. Granted, again, only 2 people really need to know what they're doing. Everyone else could just follow somebody, but that's a higher bar to clear than IG-88. So the rewards are really cool off the token vendors. You got the snow speeder, you know, the permafrost crystal if you're a Jedi, snowy armors, good, all good. Loot, you can get loot for special exotic modifiers in here, which are more common than the ones you find in the other heroic instances, and they're useful because a lot of them are for beastmasters or weird stats that might be used in niche builds, or like heal cost action reaction, which is nice. Wampa, everyone does Wampa, as in Rebels and Imperial can both do Wampa. That's cool. Njako's a good fight, has mechanics, coordination, doesn't feel as crappy. I just wish that he wouldn't target pets. The pets kind of mess up the fight, and that side of sucks for Beastmasters, but it's not hard enough to where if you're missing your pet, that it's that bad. Wampa Dune, sick. Hologram, sick. The collections, getting the Hoth radio is a great reward. They're kind of a pain in the ass, the collections, but I don't like having the collections locked in an instance that you can only enter with a minimum of 4 or more people. That's kind of annoying to do the collections, but whatever. They're mostly skippable. I'd probably put this in the realm of... you're just reenacting the movie plot. There's not really any other story built around it, but a lot of work went into the instance, and I think it's one of the more varied and interesting instances on the Rebel side. And there are 2 versions of it. Like, I don't like how Droid Factory reuses the same place twice, but this one makes sense to reuse the same place twice. Not that Droid Factory doesn't make sense, but like, Droid Factory doesn't change at all. This one at least changes the objectives a bit. Droid Factory, you're literally going through the same rooms again. This one, you're going through the same rooms with different order for different reasons, at least. Whatever. I'm splitting hairs. I'm throwing it in A tier. Don't at me. It's fine. All right, next is the Azure Cabal. I guess it's a theme park. Every NPC you talk to is an asshole. They think they're a better mercenary than you, and you show them up, and then they still deny your skill. And then the main reward is going to do repeatable missions for credit payouts. This is a level 90 thing, so you're not going to be using this to level, really. And all the repeatable missions are farmed on Legends AFK for loot. I'm going to put it in F tier. There is literally no reason to do this. There's no unique awards, there's a new badge. I just did it for the novelty of it. There's no reason to do this. Which is the Dathomir, great theme park. Probably one of my favorites after doing it. I know driving around Dathomir sucks, but using the instant travel vehicles, other travel options, big W, makes the theme park way better. Just cutting out all the driving around Dathomir. If it wasn't for that, I'd probably rate this lower. Pulling weeds, or I guess pulling herbs sucks, but the rest of it, like, they got something for everybody. They got what, fishing? Fishing's one of the badges. Entertainers can dance, I think, for a thing. Traders can craft. There's multiple story arcs with a Void Sisters clan. Speaking of ghosts, you got some good dark magic stuff, some non-Force things going on, because magic's different than the Force, but only sometimes in Star Wars. I don't know, man. I'm not going to get into it. I don't know. That's out of my league. Mutant Rancor is a cool fight. Spider Queen's cool fight. Those are also cool separate arcs that you build up to narratively. The rewards on the vendors are both good, and by the end of doing the main missions, you're going to have enough tokens to get basically whatever you really want. If you want more on the vendor, though, you are going to need to do some of the repeatable missions. I mostly pick the ones to slay the enemy clan, and I just go to, like, the enemy clan's camp, or, like, the Battle of Night Sisters battle with Single Mountain Clan. I just kill them there, and then warp back and rinse repeat. Really fun. I like this theme park. Again, if I had to drive everywhere, I'd probably hate it, but since I can teleport around, big thumbs up. I'm going to put this one up in... Yeah, I'll put it A tier. Narratively, I think it's a little lacking because it's a little split on the things you're doing. And I don't think there's really much... There's not enough narrative weight to choose between Singing Mountain Clan and Night Sisters. It's like the Singing Mountain Clan is like the good faction, but they still practice slavery, and they're still kind of shitty. There's not as shitty as the Night Sisters, I guess. It's well themed, though. The Warren is one of the overworld dungeons that I did. There's 2 badges. I guess. And then there's the Hawkback DNA that can drop, and then there's the cracked Narglech that can drop DNA. Other than getting the badges, the plot's pretty thin. Basically, it's another Imperial admiral or high-ranking officer went off, did their own experiments, and they're kind of like on the fringe, breaking the Imperial order. So regardless of your faction, you will get the Imperial Hero badge, which is funny, and because you will basically report this guy to the Empire. I do like that you don't have to kill Bor's Turad, which is the villain of the arc, but you can. He's there to kill. The other badge, Compassion, which is basically just telling a woman her husband's dead. I don't really know. And she's like locked in the facility all the way down the bottom. And you find this corpse like immediately. It's fine. Narratively, this is pretty weak. It's like a cool setting, cool concept, bad execution again. It's nice. That's kind of more like an upper mid-range dungeon for the most part, with everything being like about like 65 to 75-ish. Some of the mechanics are kind of obtuse to navigate, though. They haven't aged well. I'm going to throw this down in, honestly. Do I want to put it D tier, F tier, D tier, F tier, D tier? You know, it had that moment where it had the ATST and a giant hangar that made me think of Shadows of the Empire. I'll put it in D tier for that reason alone. Evoked a little bit of nostalgia out of me for a different Star Wars game. All right, we're back at the Geonosian Cave, which was the third time we saw this cave layout, but I think this is the progenitor for the Geonosian Cave layout. So I'm gonna already ding it on that one because I kept copy and pasting it. Like copy and pasting all the bunkers and caves, whatever. But man, the main like dungeon thing, I know the Warren's in a copy paste dungeon, but I kind of dinged it for that. This one's even worse though. The key doors suck. You can look up all the combos. You don't need to find them. The Geonosians don't really give you any good rewards. The best reward you can get is like stuff for the Sonic Blaster pistol. I know in like pre-CU, farming the Accolade was a big deal to get like Venom sacks or glands for something, but there's really no reason to go here other than the Reek DNA drop and Next DNA drop for those NPCs respectively. But they're also on 30-minute timers like the Wing-Clipped Hawkbat and the Narglech are, I believe. And the DNA is not guaranteed. It's also like, I don't know what the chance is. It feels like 50-50, but honestly, I don't even think there's a badge. I mean, I guess there's the Save the Geonosian quest, which you would save, or the Imprisoned Geonosian quest, which you start on Kashyyyk, and you get the Bolotar mount here, which is cool, but that's just in the first room. You don't need to go beyond the first room. I can't say it's worse than the Warren. Can I? I mean, I could say whatever I want. Yeah, put an F tier, mainly because the majority of enemies you're going to be fighting are clicknits and spiders that shoot giant fireballs that flash, and it's one of the two instances where I had a seizure warning up on the video because I'm like, oh my god, this is gratuitous. So yeah, F tier, just because it's annoying. Moving on to something less shitty, Death Troopers. Holla at me. This is I'm referring to the main Death Troopers quest line, not the quarantine zone as a whole here. But this is the use the Jabba's comlink or talk to Bib in Tatooine. And I think you have to use the comlink. And he'll set you on a quest to figure out what happened, some driving around, some intrigue, sets up the Death Troopers, which for those who don't know, was a larger multimedia campaign where there was a book and probably some other things. But it tied into that multimedia campaign, and this was like a big deal. They added a whole new zone in the southwestern port of Dathomir. You can't use mounts, creature, or vehicle in the zone, but there's just a pool of zombies all the way from level 5 to level... Does it go up to 95? It goes up to 92. Maybe the undead rank core is 95. I don't remember. It goes up to at least 92. And they all have undead resilience, so like they have way more health or damage resistance or something. I forget what exactly it does. Someone explained it to me once, but I don't remember. And there's a lot of collections to do as a form of side quest, but the main quest is called Death Troopers, and it has you, once you get inside, you're either investigating for an unaligned faction, the Empire, or the Rebellion, speaking with either Darth Vader or Han Solo respectively, and you're trying to basically figure out what's going on, suppress it, and make sure that nobody can use the Blackwing virus for bad, which means give it to me, ha ha ha, whatever side you're working with. And yeah, it's fine. The narrative's fine. There's some better writing here. Clearly, like, there was attention paid to this. They wanted this to be a higher quality product. Story-wise, yeah, fine. Design-wise, it was clearly intended to be done with larger groups, even though the quests don't really always indicate that. They should. But once you're in the zone, it's basically intended that you do this with probably at the time a full party, which is stupid because the quests aren't designed to do with a full party. There's a lot of instances of randomly completing a thing, doing the same thing 8 times. If you had 8 people, like the Escort Survivor, everyone's got to escort a scientist 8 times. Better hope that yours doesn't die or get stuck on something, and then you have the one guy who has everyone helping you again. Because all the zombies are on like a 60-second, 30-second spawn timer. Very aggressive. They have range attacks. They have creature moves. Very pain in the ass enemies to fight. Once you get in the facility, just big health bars because they have Blackwing resiliency and all the health. They can do some pretty nasty and punishing blows at those higher levels too, making them kind of dangerous. And while you don't need to go to every corner of the facility, if you're doing the main quest, you will if you want to do the collections. You're going to be really going to every layer. The facility itself is just Deathwatch Bunker again. So layout, I'm gonna ding you on that for just straight copy and paste. At least you don't have to get keys for the door off of timed enemy spawns. Thank God. But I like that this is a harder quest designed at groups. I wish there were more endgame quests that were targeted at small groups. Again, like 4 or less. You don't need to do the full 8s. That's a pain in the butt. But getting like 3 or 4 friends, or maybe like you and one buddy, and making it a challenge. That's fun to do. I enjoy doing this quest with friends. Solo, it's probably not worth it to do. On Legends, you just get the Flare S swoop for finishing it. I believe on live, you had to like do every collection. You had to like, activate every collection and do this quest. You also get a badge related to the faction that you help. Yeehaw. It's mostly cosmetic stuff you're getting. The loot, the best loot you're going to get from any of the enemies is the Purple Dirty DNA, because people are going to use it to mutate for Blackwing raid cores. Otherwise, most of the schematics people already have enough of. Your inventory is going to get full of like crafting components that have 0 numbers that suck. I'm just going to throw this one in. Yeah, you know what? I'll put an A tier. I don't think it's as good as like some of the other things in A tier, but I think it's a step above stuff in B tier. All right, going on to the Corellia Corvette, and by that I mean the Corellia Corvette instance. F tier. There's no reason to do this. There's really no reason to do this outside of badges, and I guess if you want to grind for AV21 engines, but they're so commonplace now, it's whatever. The narrative is basically the Rebels Corellian Corvette has been boarded by Imperials, or your Imperials boarding the Corvette. And you have 1 of 3 mission types depending on the NPC you talk to and get a prerequisite quest done for, which could be neutral, rebel, or Imperial, which is killing a high-value target, destroying, sabotaging the Corvette's hyperspace drives and speeds, basically destroying it, and oh my goodness, why can't I remember it? Rescuing a valuable person, so like a pilot or prisoner of war or something. The mechanics are fine. Navigating the instance is confusing the first few times, but if you do it more than once, you'll get used to it. It's designed to be group, but very soloable, especially since many enemies just lose a line of sight when you get far enough away from them. They don't know how to use elevators, so just go down. If you get in danger, just run back to an elevator and go down an elevator, up an elevator, or whatever. You'll be fine. Some of them will follow you up, but very rarely that happens. Again, the best loot you get is the AV21 components. There's no unique weapon skins. There's a weapon schematic, but I don't think the Berserker rifle is unique. The Rebel shirt's unique, I guess. Finding Spice is funny. And yeah, there's the badges. There's just no reason to do this right now in its current state. All right, moving on to another F tier immediately. These are the pre-NGE quests, and by this I mean the quests that were, knowingly not updated for NGE or even CU. So these are like the missions that don't get added to your journal that you're largely grabbing from NPCs rambling around player cities. So this is like I did on the stream. The quest to get the Endor painting from that weirdo in the Imperial base on Bespin. The Imperial like bougie dude in the Imperial mining camp or Imperial outpost on Tatooine. They're just slow and bad. You just do them for unique items. They don't give you any credits, or if they do, it's like, wow, here's a valuable 100, whatever. It doesn't matter. They're bad. Just don't. Unless you want the furniture, just don't. Similar F tier, also profession quests. These are primarily given to you by the the items rewarded to you from your profession wheel. These are I got a enemy dossier or whatever, and then it has you go do a quest. Some professions have one of these. Some of them I think have none of these. The best ones I think are the Jedi ones, because they actually like give you like your training saber and stuff, and they're thematic and nice. The medic one has you going to like a building out in the middle of nowhere that's surrounded by Narglatches and Mots, which, fun fact, that's the only place in the galaxy you can find Mots. I don't know why they only stuck one pig there and they're sick on Naboo. Whatever. Man, I didn't make enough room for F tiers, I guess. Shit. You could technically lop in the Jedi cloak stuff here, but I'm not going to. I'm not even going to rank it because I haven't done it ever. So it feels unfair to rank, and I don't have the experience with the force sensitive village or force ranking system from early versions of the game, so I don't have a good comparison to it. But I would probably bump this up to D tier if I included the Jedi cloak stuff, if I were to, just for the fact that that's literally endgame like requirement gear, so it's a good reward regardless of what you think of the collection items. Moving on, Nim Starmap, F, no reason to do this. On live, it gave a really good like ship parts. I think it's like the Certification 7 engine. But on Legends, it can drop from other places, thankfully, so I don't need to do that. Yeah, F tier. Debris Cultists. Oh yeah, and also Nim Starmap just has you running around the galaxy clicking shit. It's boring. It's for spacers, but it's also like they just have you running ground duty. I'm rating the Debris Cultists just because whatever. A lot of space stuff on here. I like the plot. I like people. I like a cult formed around the Death Star. Tell me more. What are they doing? Why are they mainly in space? Are they collecting debris? I get why they could be annoying the space station, but what's going on here? I wish this got developed more. And the duty missions are good. They give you weirdly more tokens than duty missions around that difficulty. Okay, XP, and you can loot good items from them hilariously. This is a real weird outlier. I'm sure there's a space mission that I haven't done that's in a similar tier. I want more. I want to learn more about the Debris Cultists. I'm putting up in C tier. I'm not putting in D tier. If you're a spacer, I say go do this, especially if you're leveling by yourself and not like doing like XP grind stuff. But do this. Nova Orion Station. I ran out of room in F tier, but this is also F tier. I'm just going to put it right here above Nib Starmap. Nova Orion Station. Unless you are a diehard spacer, like you're a shipwright, you want the schematics from the vendors, no reason to do this. The quests themselves are miserable to do. They feel scaled to do in groups or with other players, but you can't have multiple people completing the same quest at the same time. It double spawns everything, so that's bad. So you're going to be doing everything twice, and everything takes a ton of time. The pre-quests working up to this suck. I hated them. The quests are the same up until you split and either pick the Jonas Nova, the Nova or Orion side, which I'm like, oh, that's cool. It's cool they have two different paths, and you'd think they're different, but no, they're the same. In fact, they're so much the same. While they send you to different NPCs, the NPCs use the same exact dialogue. They just switch Novan and Orion for each other, and same with the NPCs in space. Absolutely miserable. Hated it. The prototype TIE Defender is cool, but you could buy that deed from somewhere else, so you don't even need to do this to get it. You just buy it off somebody who is crazy enough to do this. Again, the vendor, the mid-life rewards are useless unless you're like, again, a shipwright who wants to craft. The V-Wing's cool for the endgame quest that Legends added. I like the added thing, which is the second appearance of a child in the game, and the only other appearance I'm aware of. But it's the same child from the cave. The exact same model. They just made her a Force Ghost. So I guess she died after we saved her from the cave. Maybe the rock fell on her when we weren't looking. Maybe they didn't make it home from the desert. Maybe we didn't finish off the fire. But she died, and I guess also became Garrick's daughter in the process. But anyways, the Legends staff tried to salvage the story, and I commend them for that, which the story was basically Garrick Orion's daughter was shot in a deal gone bad between some shady characters in Nova, and so Garrick wants to split the company and get revenge on Nova and kick him out, and basically real hostile takeover style. But I don't also like how it was narratively done in the end game, where basically, oh, there was a dark Force user who corrupted their emotions and made them aggressive, and now they realize this and made up. I hate when like narrative tension is offloaded on some dude who comes out, some element that comes out of nowhere and exonerates them all of the evils that they've done. I call it like the Naruto effect, where he just talked no jutsu to someone, then everyone forgets that that was like a major serial killer that did war crimes. I don't like that writing, but to be fair to Legends writers, they didn't have anything to work with from that quest line. It was literally the same quest line twice, and again, whoever wrote it named one of the companies and characters dung, shipping, and fecal pee. So I guess that should have set my expectations correctly from the start. Speaking of setting expectations correctly, we'll write Deathwatch Bunker proper, and I use the owl mineral as the icon, because what else are you going in there other than to make a jetpack or Mandalorian armor? There's nothing else cool to get in here other than liquids and jetpack components. The drops are just gear. Getting liquids is miserable. It's literally working the mines. You are literally there is a mine at the bottom of it. There is the mine section, okay? You're literally working the mines. I know not all the ghosts spawn down there, but you are literally and figuratively working the mines, getting liquid drops. It's miserable. I hate it. Some people are nostalgic for this, but that's Stockholm Syndrome. I hope you get the help you need. Deathwatch Bunker's miserable. I would prefer that if another emulator were to tackle this area, that they make it a theme park, make it a Mandalorian theme park, add a different faction that's not Deathwatch, or maybe have a Deathwatch splinter group, have some quests, have some narrative, make them also an Endor, and then be like, hey, there's this bunker shit going on, there's a fringe group in there doing bad shit. Make it an instance that you can do like once a day. It's repeatable. You can add a token currency. You get a token for doing the repeatable quest. You get some tokens for doing the quests. You can then redeem it at the vendor, and then maybe you can have drop items that are required, like components for crafting the armor. So there's like some like drops that you look for. You could add some more Mandalorian items. You could put Din Djarin's helmet in there. You could put stuffed Grogu in there, whatever. Just make it a thing. Don't just make it a grind RNG fest mine. This is one of the most miserable places in the galaxy, and I hate it. Is it F tier? Absolutely. I don't care that you get the jetpack here. I don't care that you get Mandalorian armor here. It doesn't excuse how miserable of an experience that it is. Empire Day. This is the only like holiday event I actually showed anything of on stream to any like real, or showed on the 190 series to any real extent, which is I did the quests, or you can do them once per year. You can't do them every day. Did it for Marjade and Wedge Antilles respectively. We went and did their things. Basically, the quests are the same. You go investigate a thing, go back to that thing you investigated, then go in the base and you do some stuff. It was developed by SOE. Legends have tweaked it a little bit to like, they made Mara Jade look hotter, I guess. Higher fidelity, maybe is the technical term. And which carried over to her appearance in Death Watch as well. And they changed some of the NPC looks to make it more distinct, but there needs to be more NPC spawns or make them shorter timers in these bunkers. The reason this video came out late, because when this Empire Day starts, there's everyone and their mother with their ults out here trying to complete the quest at the same time. And so everyone's fighting over these spawns that are sometimes like 2 or 3 minutes, and they're like the bare minimum. Just add more in there, man. Add more guys. Make it a respawn timer, sure, do something, man. Completing this always sucks, but like the poster's funny, and there's some good dialogue between Wedge and Mara. It's witty. I like the banner. Empire Day is my favorite seasonal event. I'm gonna put this one in I'm gonna put it in C tier. If the quest itself wasn't so sucky, I do it. Also, the Rebel one's way easier than the Empire one. By the merit that the Rebel one, you just go to the Yavin Imperial base and go in. The Imperial one, you gotta go to the Rebel hideout in Corellia, which is kind of annoying. But whatever. So sticking to the thematic stuff, we got Rebel Bespin. I'm doing the sides differently because while they're largely the same, they're different enough narratively we're going to rate them. So the Rebel Bespin quest, in short, is basically this takes place right after the Battle of Hoth. The rebels, you're with a rebel contingent who has escaped Hoth in a Corvette, and you're helping managing the ship. And then you land in a hidden, secluded hangar on the Cloud City platform of Bespin. And you're basically trying to stay hidden from the Empire, repair your ship, gather your allies, and leave without, you know, the Empire trapping you, catching you, whatever, to regroup with the Rebel fleet. That's the plot. So you has you running through different sectors of Bespin's industrial mining complexes, different instances like their generator room, wing guard hangar, and basically you're aligned with the wing guard as a rebel, and you're taking on whatever sabotages are going on. And if you're doing this only as a rebel and you haven't done the Imperial side, you don't know who's sabotaging the city. You know someone's there and someone's doing it. You get hints that maybe they're Imperial aligned. You don't know who it is. Working through it, though, you start getting evidence. It's like, oh, no, there's some Imperial agents doing stuff here. I wonder what's going on. But eventually, you get off the platform right as the Empire starts showing up, which would be during the film, right before they headed off the Millennium Falcon that went to Cloud City. The Imperial side is the reverse. You are already, as the Empire, are interested in Cloud City, and you want to have more of an influence there, but you don't have any good reason to intervene in a neutral planet, right? So the Empire has tasked an agent to come and do stuff, and you're part of that agent's plot. And basically part of that plot is you're doing all the sabotaging that the rebels are counteracting, and I really like that narratively. It's a good payoff if you do both sides. So for the rebel side, though, in the main beats, which I'll cover really fast, is part one is securing your station in the mining sector, or industrial sector, which is like an old abandoned one. It's not very abandoned, but it's supposedly abandoned. Number two is then kind of like setting up the stage on the Cloud City proper, getting out his information, going in and out of the mining sector, and then kind of like helping out the Wing Guard with the stuff. Number three is going into the Wing Guard HQ itself and doing a bunch of stuff there. And number four is then finally helping Lando Calrissian and his main allies. And the reason he went to help his main allies is to get an audience with Lando Calrissian to facilitate aid to get off the planet finally. It's a good plot. I really like the characters, especially the rebels themselves. There's also good callbacks to the rest of Galaxy's characters, like Talon Kadar shows up again, the guy who leads Cardass, whatever. So some good callbacks to some good Star Wars Galaxy stuff. Really well written characters, sympathize, empathetic, good situations. Not a big fan of the puzzles that show up. One puzzle shows up twice, and then one puzzle shows up once in the Wing Guard. They're not that hard, but the Wing Guard one took me longer to read the instructions than they do the puzzle. That's funny. The Wing Guard HQ itself, I feel like the first 5 or 6 levels felt fully fleshed out and realized, and everything else kind of felt like we ran out of time. Especially set floor 7, I just wish was deleted. Same as floor 8. Those floors suck. I'm sorry. It's just all running, man. It's just all running and clicking. I mean, I like the library thing on floor 8, where you can do the harder trivia. That's fun, but there's just not enough to do on those floors. By that merit, it does pay out good credits, does give good rewards, good decorations. On Rebel side, you get the prototype Rebel armor. On the Imperial side, you get the patrol armor, which is wearing right here, well, everything but the helmet. And I'd say I'd probably put the Rebel one in. Ooh, this is hard because I like to put a lot of praise on it because I like it. But it takes about 10 hours, and I would say about 40% or 60% is just A to B. Whether you're driving across Cloud City or walking, and you're going to a lot of the same positions a lot of the same time, which is kind of weird because there's a lot of locations that I found exploring Bespin that are well decorated, but nothing ever brings you there other than maybe a collection item or the Bespin apartment token. So I wish they used the space more. It made all the driving around a little less tiring. I also have the bias of I've already done this 2 times as a Rebel and once as an Imperial, so I've already done this 3 times. I gotta put in B tier. I really like it narratively, and I like the beats of it, but the raw gameplay is maybe a bit too much downtime. Maybe a few more comm calls, or maybe going to other locations. As for the Imperial side, I kind of already gave a synopsis of this one when I'm talking about the Rebel side. I think the main agent you speak to, I forget his name, he's okay. The other guy, though, the engineer that's with you, he sucks. He's a bad person. Everyone else you talk to in the quest is bad people. And not in the interesting way, I get it, but just comically evil. They just kind of wave off killing civilians and think it's funny, or they think the civilians should be called because of dirty pores or something. I don't know. it's just shitty and bad. They're all shitty bad. I hate everybody but like the main agent here. Um, I don't. The plot overall plot's cool. I like how it adds context to both sides again. I would say the Imperial side's harder. C tier. You know why? They have some stealth mechanic that shows up multiple times, which happens, which it appears in a later quest we'll talk about. But basically, there's a big radius around some NPCs, and if you walk into it, you fail. You have to go back outside and reset. It feels like it invalidates your ability as like anyone with a cloak to do anything, and it's not super well communicated about how the line of sight for it works, and it kind of made for a frustrating gameplay experience. The rewards are the same as the Rebel side, minus the difference in armor. So just basically, I don't like the character writing as much. The overall plot's fine, and while I don't have to do as many puzzles as the Rebel side, exactly one less puzzle, maybe two. The detection thing didn't work for me here, so I'm gonna bump it down to C. Also, it's just super mean. Like the last, like floor 9, you're combatant and everything's aggro to you in there in the front door, and the turrets hurt, man. That's really hard to do solo. It's way harder Imperial than Rebel. Next is Monster Politician, which is a quest line exclusive to Legends, where basically you go around, talk to a bunch of figures throughout the galaxy. It takes about 30 minutes if you take it slow, read everything, or you could smash it out in 10 minutes if you just click through everything. Good decorative rewards, very appropriate. Some funny light humor writing, but does also a good job of introducing some of the mechanics of mirroring, and where it can't talk about mechanics, the concepts, so maintaining decorations, seeing what citizens want, managing a militia conceptually. Short, brief, doesn't overstay its welcome, rewards you properly by activating the politician questline to give to master. I think for what it does well. I will put it in A tier. I know that sounds weird, but it's kind of like the goal was to introduce politicking as a mechanic. And it does that well, and it kept me entertained. I've done it a few times now, and I still like reading it, going back to it, and doing it. It has a good mixture of serious and funny, and also being self-aware about the whole thing. Similarly, the Valerian theme park, as the Legends version of it is very rewarding, gives good rewards. It's also a prerequisite to a quest we'll talk about later. The quest objectives themselves are good. It's level 90. Has an appropriate challenge for a single player, for a group. You might need a friend to help you on certain segments, depending on your gear. I like the interactions. I like some of the surprises that it has along the way. I like that it has you moving around Isley, because it helps, see like this people moving around Isley, doing stuff, not just doing the legacy or just getting the cantina or whatever. I like it. And I also like that Legends update, the look of the Lucky Bespin inside with the decorations, helps it feel more lively. I think this is a really good quest. Again, you can do this one about 30 to 45 minutes by yourself leisurely. And the ultimate reward is the schematic for the Tatooine Large House Style 3, which is the Lars homestead ass house where it's like a hole in the ground with a moisture evaporator and the rooms. Cool house. Looks kind of weird on Dantooine, but looks great on Lock and Tatooine. You know what? Yeah. A tier. I think I like the plot also of like Valerian's main captains vying for Valerian's approval to move up the rank. And it does what it aims to do very well. I almost kind of want to bump it up to S. But do I like it as much as Nim's theme park and Rage of the Wookiees? I've done it a few times, and I'm never really bored with it. And I feel like it's a higher quality of content overall. All my criticism, it's like really like niche. Like I wish it maybe took you somewhere else or utilized a different part of the game world or whatever. But that's all like they had an idea for Valerian and ran with it, and I think they executed on it well. So you know what? Yeah, I'll bump that to S. I'll bump that one up to S. I like that one. It's fun. Right? And one's like, hey, you want to help me through Valerian? I'm like, yeah. Chill, good time. I like it. Next is the Jedi Theme Park Prologue. The Jedi Theme Park is not complete on Legends. They're working on completing it. But this is like the introduction. So this has you go to the Light Jedi Temple, not the Enclave. There's a new location called the Temple on the further west side of the planet. And it has you investigating disturbances because there's been some earthquakes and whatever, and has you investigate a camp that's been ransacked. That was like investigating these disturbances, and you run around and get jumped by some, I think like level 91 enemies. These like dark side cultists, they're pretty strong. Definitely intended for a group play. You can do it solo, but this is definitely one where I would recommend take like 1 or 2 friends up until you get to the part where you're investigating in disturbance part 2. You gotta find the scientist. Then maybe you want to take at least 4 friends. You could also do this solo. I demonstrated that in the 1 to 90 series, but you kind of have to have a specific build and mindset going into it. And the enemies in there drop good stuff, and they're part of Slayer collections. There's things to do there. I would say take your time with some friends, go clear out the stuff you need to clear out. With 4 people, I've been able to get through that part in less than 30 minutes. And that's killing everything in the way. Like everything, not just like taking shortcuts. Like, no, we're slaying everything in the way. So with a group of 4 players adequately geared, you could probably do it in like 15 minutes if you just kill the bare minimum. This is not including the instances. We're going to rate that separately. Or the temple bosses. We're going to rate that separately. This is just the prerequisite quests. I'm going to rate this one... The thing is, it's very brief, right? So it's hard for me to pin it. Like, Valerian's brief, but it did what I wanted to do. This isn't doing all of that it wants to do. It's literally like the episode 1 of the theme park, right? So it's not quite executing on everything. And it doesn't really feel like, we got this amount done, let's just push this out, and then we'll get the rest done later, which is fine. I don't think that's bad. I'd rather have more consistent updates than silence for a long time, and I don't mind if they come out in parts like this. We can go back to the Walking Dead Part 1, Part 2, Episode 1, Episode 2 drop style for this. That's fine. But the rewards aren't great. It gives a lot of XP and some credits, but all the cool stuff you're going to get from this is either the drops from the enemies or the instances, as in drops again. So there's no fixed reward you're getting. The narrative set is set up here, which I guess is the point of the prologue. Does it do what it aims to do? I guess. Is it A rank? I don't know. I gotta put in B rank or B. There's just not a lot of enemy variety. There's just Minox and Cultists, which the Cultists are 2 flavors: followers and ritualists. And then yeah, I just wanted maybe a little bit more variety, maybe a little bit more build up before getting into the next part. Which I'm going to rate these instances out of order. So the first one's the Jedi Temple Trio, I like to call it, which is Milan, and then I like to refer as the other 2. As in, if you read the wiki, you don't remember the other 2's name. I just did them yesterday, and I can't remember their names. It's like Songhill and guy who spawns the Jedi Elders. These are all fine. They all have a mechanic to execute on. Milan spawns Juggernauts who are weak to a certain element, so you need a weapon switch and kill those before they pile up to be too many. And then when you push her or his, I don't remember, their health bar down, then they'll enrage and the medic has to purge, and then you just kill them. Songil introduces the Saber Reflect mechanic, which seems to have a little bit more leeway than Sinya's in terms of how long the delay is between the system message and then the buff purging. And I believe Songhill also uses Saber Block, so you get the medic gets some practice purging that before fighting Sinya, which is good. I like the introduction of that mechanic. I think that was well thought out. And you have some ads to manage. And then the other one with the Jedi Elders, it's just Tusken King, but with a bigger health bar. You just got to kill the ads as they show up, and then once you push the health bar down once, you just kill them again. That fight takes like 6 to 9 minutes, and it's just hitting a health bar and clearing ads. If it took like half that amount of time on average, or if there was an actual mechanic to execute on other than like purging something or killing ads, I maybe put it higher. I know it doesn't have a specific combat arena design for it. It's just shoved up by a throne. I don't know. I think like something could have been done. That one's just kind of, it's just hitting a health bar. It's too much, man. Songhill introducing the cleansing thing is good, and she also drops Florioes, which also is a primer for, I guess, Sinya. Except Sinya, you want to stand in some things and not other things. Because Ash, you would have already done at that point, most likely. Technically, you don't have any prerequisites to do any of these bosses, but typically the order is Kazash first than these. But I'm rating these first because a lot of people might have only experienced Milan, because they'll go do heroics, and the group's like, let's go do Milana, and you're like, what? And then you just go kill one boss in this temple and then leave. The loot's good. Drops very good loot. Not the same loot tables as Kashyyyk and Sinya, but similar. Like, I think they drop the Sith speeders. I just don't think they drop the weapon schematics. And you can still drop good color, rare color crystals, and maybe the perfect powers. I don't know. Honestly, I'm gonna have to put this down in C tier. Narratively, these characters don't have too much of a setup. It's just kind of like go kill the people. Not much narrative. And honestly, when I put it next to look at the Lost Star Destroyer, it just looks like the same thing. Like good concepts, but maybe it just takes too much time. You know, too much just big health bars. I wouldn't put it in D tier though, because again, the loot's good, and the fights are different at least, except for the guy who's this TK but longer. But the other two are different at least, so that's good. Moving on to Kashyyyk. Narratively, he's got some setup. Spooky guy. Like, I have given myself unto the Force, and now I've become this golem. Cool concept. Wish he had more of a build-up in the quest itself, rather than just kind of reading plaques about him and getting, like, text boxes. But whatever. Fight itself. First phase requiring melee. Okay, give the melees a W. Elemental switching, maybe a little excessive. Because basically now everyone has to carry on 4 swords of every flavor. But I do like how the element of switching is done here compared to Wrath and Exar. Again, if you don't swap in time, it's fine. You're just missing out on some DPS. Where in Wrath, if you don't swap, then everyone dies, which is a little really punishing for, again, something that can be influenced heavily by latency. I know there's a lot of mechanics that can be influenced by latency, such as like things not showing up on the screen fast enough. But this one of them just feels bad, man. It just feels bad when you're elemental swapping, you don't hit it. But for this first phase, fine. The elemental golems, it's more the same. Maybe the health bars are a bit too big, but it's fine. Then after that, you have the pylons, right? That's just below the pylons, fine. Then you run around the Rosie, aka run around the Kashyyyk. I'm getting these out of order probably, but whatever, you know what I'm talking about. Or is this don't stand in things, which that's the theme of the Kashyyyk, for instance. Don't stand in the things. Don't stand in the Force Storms. My main critique of the Force Storms is they don't draw very quickly or well. Like, if you're not looking at them, they won't draw. So if you're running away, you won't see it. I know that sounds dumb, but like if you zoomed out your camera and you're running away, you won't see it draw immediately. The blue pools inside the Bespin Holonet have the same problem. I wish these AoEs were clearer to see, especially since they're a transparent red on like a reddish black floor. Really hard to see. Then yeah, you shoot him, and then you have the part where he has the ritualist channeling, and he's like invulnerable, and you gotta like stand in the blue circles. This fight's fine. It can take a little bit longer if you have bad luck on the circles all spawning in the middle, because just AoEs seem to want to spawn in the middle all the time and just kill people. So that kind of sucks. So some bad luck can make this part go slower, which it already goes pretty slow. Medics, you better purge those ritualists, man. They're gonna kill everybody if you don't. Fine. Maybe this takes a little bit too long. I'd rather the mechanic be executed and the rituals die, but I know like if the group's damage is high enough, they'll just die in the first one, so skill issue maybe. And then from there on, it's just tank and spanking Kashyyyk. Good fight overall. It's considered to be harder than Sinya's more often than not, because of some of the mechanics, but honestly, I just think it takes longer than Sinya on average because of the bigger health bars and the way the mechanics work, and there's someone just waiting for things to activate, getting bad luck on some activations. Maybe not everyone brought the right sword to the party. Whatever. The loot's good. I don't know the loot table exactly, but it's everything you can get from the temple bosses, like the 4-5 Waith Pack. I think you get the perfect power crystal. I know it drops on Sinya. I don't know about Kashyyyk. Some weapon schematics here. I think some furniture. Like I think one of the two dropped the back to tank. So some cool stuff. Is it better than Octopus Min? Whatever. No. Partially, it's held back by also the tokens, Kashyyyk and Sinya tokens, or at release, they didn't do much other than some furniture that you may or may not care about and some cosmetics. Now they can be used for more things like the slicing components, some buff items, so they're more useful now. So I'm not going to dig in on token use. Very few currencies will ever be as useful as the original 5 heroic tokens because they're really jewelry, and that's fine. The boards are okay. I just think, I don't know. Uh, I guess if you're running with a set group who knows what they're doing, it's not that bad. But when you're running pickup groups, which is a lot of the groups that I fall into, or groups that are more mismatch, kind of a rougher experience. Speaking of a rougher experience, here's Sinya. Which, while Sinya takes less time, I would say, with a good group, she could be more frustrating. She has not one but two mechanics that can really grind my gears, gamers. The first one is the Saber Reflect, which is fine. I don't think it's that bad. I think it's fine to have the medic wake up. I just think at this point, there are so many mechanics that just depend on the medic being awake and purging. I kind of wish there were fewer or more people could purge. The medic's already juggling a lot of stuff depending on the group. And so many of the Legends bosses that have been added are like basically hard requiring purge. Harakakok from Avatar, like I talked about in hard mode. Kizash, the temple bosses, and now Sinya. If I don't see any more hard required on purges going forward, I'd be fine with that. There's just too many. And again, if you fire into her at all, you'll die. And that includes commandos running Killing Spree. I've seen a lot of commandos kill themselves on Sinya because they're running Killing Spree and they're shooting like something else, not even anywhere near Sinya, but then Killing Spree hits her and then they just die. So that's kind of frustrating, but like skill issue, I guess. You also have to be careful with like things with fuses. So officer AoEs, commando grenades, because if you're not careful about your timing, you could call in your AoE, then oops, they reflex coming up, and you're like, whoa, someone box me. You know, like very easy to blow yourself up with a cluster bomb if you're not paying attention as a commando, which is, again, you can say skill issue. The main mechanic that I hate is more of the circle stuff. So Sinya says, which is the color one, where basically she'll call out colors, right? And one of them will be the one you want to stand in, the one that's associated with survive. One of them will be instant death, and the other two will like give you another buff if they're not as good. Usually you go for the one that says survive, and the colors are randomized. So the frustrating thing about this experience is that if you don't kill her ads and push her health to a certain point within a certain period of time, she will actually drop the circles off the map and then Sinya says again and resummon them. And I never knew this mechanic existed until yesterday, because every time I've done Sinya, we've had enough damage to push it. But I guess our damage wasn't on the ball yesterday or something. I don't know. And what happened was I was standing in the circle and it disappeared. And I'm like, okay. And the circles show up randomly around the platform, right? Okay, it's not like they're in fixed positions. And then she Sinya said immediately, and then the death circle spawned under my feet and instant killed me before the circle even drew the color. And I'm not hyperbole, I recorded this. Okay? I'm not crazy, and I know this probably happened to other groups where they have slow damage on that phase. That sucks. My suggestion would be to put the circles in fixed locations. You can randomize the colors. Like, you could have, you know, red spawn in back right, then front right, and then whatever. You can randomize the colors. Just have like 4 sectors of the map where the circle spawn, and then put a slight delay after they like undraw so people can move out either to the middle or whatever, and then you just that's fine. Just don't instantly pants me to something that I can't react to. That sucks. Like, your only recourse is that if the phase is feeling like it's going long, you leave the circle and go to the ramp. But if you're not aware of the mechanic, or, you know, the group doesn't move and say you're melee, God helps you if the death circle spawns under you. Either way, I talked too long about Sinya. Again, good loot tail, same as the others. I'd say it's as frustrating as Kazash, but for different reasons. So let's put it also B tier. There's also the bigger ping pong. Bigger ping pong's fine. I don't think it's bad. Makes people like all responsible for the ping pong. And finally, after how knows how long at this point, the last quest, Star Viper. So this is the prerequisite to do this is to complete the Valerian theme park, and then you can start the Star Viper quest, which will make you talk to Lady Valerian, which has a 1-hour wait time for, I don't know why. I know maybe it's like immersion, like she needs time to get you the info. I get it, immerse me, but damn, man, that's awkward. So whatever, not a big deal. The rest of this quest line, again though, another banger. I really enjoy the variety here. You have the ground content associated, but then you have the piloting associated. I really, really like that it has you use the interdiction burst generators, the IBG, in order to use the plans that Valeria gives you or Valerian, Lady Valerian gives you to then go summon it, because that is a great introductory to convoys. And as somebody who didn't know what the hell convoys were until like I played on Legends, and having no like grasp of that, I need an IBG, I don't know like the beats of it, this is great. It like shows you how to load, like it tells you in the description, needs an interdiction burst generator, go look that up in the bazaar, get one, slam it in, tells you to go to the space point, does it, works exactly like a convoy summon. Perfect. I love this. I wish this was like in a space quest that everyone had to do. Like I wish it was maybe a part of the piloting faction as a quest. Like drop one of those dumbass escorts and throw that in. Introduce it as a concept, because tier 1 to 2 convoys are just not done. Tier 3s and 4s might be done by a smuggler solo to get like illegal modules for their illegal weapon buffs, because they don't want to do smuggling and they don't feel like getting a group for tier 6s, or they don't want to solo tier 5s. Tier 5s are only done because you just want like some loot, but you don't want to work for it. And then, you know, tier 6s are great, but you got to get people for that, right? So it's really great to have an introductory convoy. Kind of warms people up to it and wonder, oh, are there other things like this? And they can look into it and pursue it. So that's great. I love the Black Sun Station. Yes, it is Tansarii Point / Nova Orion again for the third time, and I know I've dinged it, but it's really well decorated. You're not on it for very long. There's no required combat. It's just walking around. The cloner requirement is funny joke, meta, good puzzle. I think it's fine. Right now, actually, Vum is in the atrium, which I didn't do during the video because I didn't think about going up. But it has a lot of cool decoration in it. It's a great place to vibe. You need the IFF code to get in, so unless you've done this Star Viper quest at this point, you can't even get here to check it out, which is a shame. It's a beautiful area. I hope they use it for more stuff in the future. And then the rest of the space stuff is cool. I like collecting the schematics. I like how when you go to areas that are thematic to the Black Sun, like the one bunker that you do during Seekers of the Syren or whatever. Hunt Black Suns in space. Get one off the space station, one of the areas. Make you explore the space station. I wish there was a 6 schematic that made you go upstairs or something. Just so people realize you can go upstairs. And then ISD, putting one in one of the heroics is an interesting play for making spacers go do the ground content. Not saying that's necessarily good, but hey man, there's a lot of instances where ground players have to do the space content if they want to do the rest of the ground content behind it, like the Imperial, like Lost Star Destroyer. Granted, they can mooch out people who did do the space homework, but you know, having it cut the other way, I think's fine. And then you eventually get the schematic for the Star Viper, which is cool. I really like this. I think it executed well what it did. Do I have any critiques of it? No. Works. It plays well with groups. You do it with a friend. I did it with a friend. Maybe if you're the inverse of what I was talking about earlier, you're allergic to ground content, you're just a pure spacer, this one might rub you the wrong way, but you can always just buy Star Viper from someone else. It's just a schematic and craft it, or just buy the schematic. I'm putting this one in best tier. I like this one a lot. So that's it. That's all of my rankings. Deathwatch and Nova Orion are F tier. Remember, they're not D tier. I just ran out of room in F tier. I didn't think I was gonna have the main F tier. Looks like pretty even, but when you rate 70 things, that's pretty easy to even them out between all these categories. Only 4 S tiers. But let me know what you thought about my ratings. Let me know if I'm crazy. Let me know if I missed anything that you really wanted me to get a review on. Make sure to comment that below, and also make sure to subscribe so you can catch more videos like my upcoming achievement hunting series, or it might already be going depending when I upload this, real life time permitting. And until next time, everybody, stay hungry.